Did you ever think you would make it? I feel I'm so close I could taste sweet victory. I know this life meant for me. Yeah, why would you bet on Goliath when we got Bet David? Valuetainment, giving values contagious. This world of entrepreneurs, we get no value to haters. How they run, homie, look what I become. I'm the one.
Ladies and gentlemen, those in our studios and those of you watching at home, make some noise right now. Let's go. We have an exciting show lined up for you guys today with some very special guests. But before we introduce them, I want to bring out my guys, your home team members. First up, we have a business investor. He's a club owner and Miami's most eligible bachelor besides me. I'm being dead serious. Give it up right now. Big round of applause for Adam Sosnick. Up next, he's a mentor, he's a father, he's a teacher, business entrepreneur. Please help me welcome to the stage the biz doc himself, Tom Ellsworth. He's never run that fast in his life, ever. All right, and the moment you guys all been waiting for, the reason why we're here, businessman, entrepreneur, founder, and CEO of Valuetainment. My friend, everybody right now, get up off your seats right now. Get up off your seats right now. Make some noise for the man himself, Patrick Bet David.
All right. How you doing? How you feeling? You excited? You ready? Okay. Well, first of all, you know, one of the things we haven't done yet, we haven't given love to one of the most loved team members on that. Who here loves Vincent Oshana? Make some noise if you love Vincent Oshana. All right. Having said that, I have two friends here which I'm excited about, and we're going to sit down and have a debate, have discourse. You know, one of the reasons why it was taking a little bit longer for us to come. But for folks who think the podcast is late every year for a few minutes, is because nobody spends more time doing makeup with our makeup artist than Adam. Every single time. 30 minutes, we're like, Adam, let's roll. And today he was a little bit late, but it is what it is. We have two special guests. The first one, him and I have literally become friends. It's very weird. We get on the phone, we'll talk, and sometimes a 15-minute conversation turns into a 2-hour fight, and it ends with, I love you, brother, and then we get off the phone and do it again, right? And then after a long talk and seeing his face, some of you guys, depending on where you lean politically, some of you love him, some of you don't. Some of you are kind of sitting there saying, I kind of like the direction he's going. He was the face of a major channel for many years, CNN. He's going through different challenges right now with him. Yes, you can scream that all you want today. But I got to tell you something. The more and more I talk to him, the more and more I like him, and the more I want him to be around. He's so good with my kids when they're around. He's so good with the family. I've been to his house. I've seen how he is with his kids. When we were going to the airport, his son was driving us, my wife and my kids to the airport. We have had a very good time together. So I see some stuff that you guys don't see behind closed doors. And we're excited because today we'll be making an announcement with Chris as well. Give it up. And by the way, one of the things I value a lot is somebody that defends his brother and his family. And that's one of the things he did. Give it up to the one and only Chris Cuomo. Come on, Chris. You see the clap? You see the clap? They like you. They love you. All right, so next person, by the way, you can't get on the internet without seeing her, okay? And she's been around for a while. She just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Whether it's a documentary, whether it's doing a show, whether it's doing some of the... Recently, she did a very good interview with Dave Smith we were talking about this morning. But she's one of those that, whether it's politics, culture, she can sit with anybody, have a great conversation with them. Recently, Forbes calls her the voice of black conservative in 2024 election. So people... And by the way, I don't even know if she likes that compliment or not, but that's what Forbes thinks. So if you don't like it, Candace, you call Forbes out right now when you come on the stage. But she's loved. She pushes the envelope. Give it up for the great Candace Owens. All right. seats, grab seats. Grab seats. Okay. So how many of you watched the wonderful State of the Union speech last night? Just fired up, yes? We're going to talk about that. Candace, how you doing? Chris, how you doing?
Good. Very good, thank you.
Yes?
Feeling very fortunate.
Feeling very fortunate. Tell us why.
Fortunate.
Why is that?
Well, sitting on a panel of very deep thinkers, very concerned Americans. It's always good to exchange ideas.
Yes,
it's good to be
absolutely.
here with you. And I think we got a lot to talk about, and I love your suit. Makes me jealous.
By the way, as much as I love this suit, it's nothing close to the black shirt he gave me a few minutes ago. You know that.
New News Nation merch.
That black polo, thank you for that. But anyways, so let's start off with open-ended question. Chris and Candace, specifically to you guys. Candace, what is your thoughts, your impression of Chris? You know, because for many years, we watched CNN and he was the face of CNN, right? Whether he's reporting, whether he's interviewing, whether he's calling out, whether he's doing what he's doing with his colleagues. And also, Chris, open-ended from you, impression of what Candace has done. So Candace, we'll start off with you first.
You know, I think my perception as CNN as a network is engages in a lot of propaganda. I think what happens anyways is that when you have a corporation that gets very big, you have your angle and you want to hire people that reinforce that angle. So that's just me understanding the humanity of it. And something I think tripped over for a lot of people when Trump was elected. And so my perception of all of the anchors at CNN is that they were just engaged laser focus on trying to destroy Trump as a man and didn't realize perhaps that in the process you were destroying the Americans who supported him by not understanding, by sort of castigating them all as racist or sexist or homophobes, whatever it was, whatever the thing was. And so I think that was my first introduction to you. I actually developed respect for you, though, when you defended your brother, whether or not I agree with him or what he's done or what, you know, whether he's guilty or not. I always will respect somebody that has loyalty to their family. And so I was interested to see what you would do perhaps with a little more freedom and to find out who you are. So I have no biases against you, but I probably didn't like you too much when you were at CNN.
Just wait till you get to know me. You'll have plenty of reason not to like me. So I have a different perspective, right? I have a different perspective on CNN. I think it's frustrating for some people that I don't harbor resentment or ill will, and it's not because I'm a good person. It's just, I don't find it productive. I don't see CNN that way. You are right about Trump. Trump changed the game. And I mean the word game as an operative phrase. Our politics, our political culture, the coverage of it, the parties, it's all part of a game dynamic that only works to the advantage of the players in the game and not to you. And I think that is one of the biggest problems that really can change the game, is people understanding that it's not about them anymore. Even last night, everybody watched the State of the Union for a take on whether the President of the United States was competent, literally like in a physical sense, which is a very low bar. And what was he going to say about Trump? Nobody watched for what they were going to say about you or your life or what it's supposed to be about. He didn't even tell us what the State of the Union is, because everybody knows the answer. Everybody knows it's in a state of disunion. So I didn't see CNN as a malefactor. I still don't. I think it's one of the strongest organizations in the world when it comes to coverage. Trump changed the game because he took on the media and trashed all the norms. I always say that former President Trump got what he asked for, which was conflict and tension. Was it to destroy him as a man? Certainly, that was never what I'm about, which is why he talked to me so often. You know, if we know one thing about the president is that he's not going to put himself in situations he thinks are bad for him. And he talked to me on a regular basis, off air. He would call on a regular basis to tell me how terrible CNN was, and why, and how I could let that be. But I also think there's one other thing, and then I'll answer any questions anybody wants. It's a mistake to judge the people on the platform all the same way. You look at a platform, you look at a company, you look at CNN, you look at Fox, you look at MSNBC. Then you go and you look at the show. And what is that show about? What it's supposed to be about. Then you look at the person on. That's the only way to do it. You look at News Nation, where I am now. Ashley Banfield is not Dan Abrams, is not Chris Cuomo, is not Leland Vittert. They're all different people. They all have different reasons that they do what they do. You can't write them all off by just News Nation. So I appreciate you sitting next to me. You are whip smart, and you have a great ability to communicate message. I think you have so much power in this dynamic. I don't like the way Forbes identifies you, because I don't think that you play to black Americans. I think you play to Americans who have a very certain set of ideals and values. And it's a challenge for you. And I appreciate watching you deal with it. And I probably feel like this side of my face is going to be sore at the end of this session today. So I'm happy to be here. I'm open to, I'm not in the judgment business. So I'm open to what you say, what he says, what the handsome man says, and taking it each case by case. That's how I do it. And the more we do that, the better we are.
I love it. By the way, I respect both of you guys for agreeing to do this. And it wasn't that tough, just so you guys know. Like, it wasn't a negotiation. Candace is like, let's get a date. And you're like, let's figure it out. And it's fantastic to be able to do that. I think we need more of that in America today, where we get to, how many guys would like to see more of that, where we sit down and have these types of conversations? And we're planning on doing many more of these for many years to come. Candace, just for you guys, before I go into my set of questions with State of the Union, we got a lot of things to go. I want to go through the border. I want to talk about the State of the Union. I want to talk about some of the things that the social credit system that they have in China. Is any of that going to be coming down here? I want to talk about whether Biden's going to be the one being there, because a little bit of how he gave the speech yesterday, 4 more years, kind of gave you the impression that Newsom and Michelle may not be happening, especially with what Michelle said this last week, saying, I will not be running in 2024. What that means, maybe she's saying she's only walking right now and she's only jogging and her cardio is different. We don't know, because you have to really read into this kind of stuff. But before we go into any of that stuff, Candace, is there any question you have for Chris Cuomo? Any question you have from, you know, and a part of the first time I talked to Chris, I'm trying to see, we're sizing each other up first time when we were here. Specifically, I wanted to make sure he knew how to curl 60-pound dumbbells, because I was a little concerned. Because I said, hey, can you lift these weights or no?
That was going to be my question.
We have the dumbbells back here. No, but what question do you have for him? Is there anything that you'd want to ask him?
Yeah, I think what I would want to ask you is, just with that time and that distance away from the network, what is your actual perception of the people that follow Trump, the people that believe in Trump, the American people that support him and want to see him back in the office? Like, what do you actually believe about those individuals?
One, that you don't have one individual, right? You have different groups of people who support, whether it's Trump, whether it's any alternative to the left, right? You're going to have different buckets of people. So, did Hillary Clinton make a mistake calling Trump supporters deplorables? Of course. Of course. That's easy. Did she mean it the way that it came out?
Yes. Probably. Of course.
I don't know.
That's easy.
I don't know. I know this much. I know she says no, but you don't have to care about her answer. But that's politics, and that's media. Did Kellyanne Conway mean what was ascribed to her when she said alternative facts? No. It's not, this is your reality, this is my reality. What time is it right now? That's a fact. What's the temperature? That's a fact. How many people are on this stage? That's a fact. You say the only thing that matters is what time it is. I say it actually matters more what the temperature is. I'm using an alternative fact to make a different argument. It's not different realities. That's what she meant. Did the media give her the benefit of that? Hell no. Why? Hate her. Wanted to beat her down. Kellyanne's been a friend of mine for over 30 years. So I understand this. That's the way it gets played. Clinton made a mistake. I had a very strong feeling that Donald Trump was going to be president of the United States in 2015 and 2016. Why? The rallies. and the truth of the grievance and the disaffection that he became a proxy for. I often, not just because it's alliterative, but I often refer to Trump as an agent of animus, as an agent of grievance, that there is a big group of this country that has very legitimate, if different, concerns, whether it's values-based, economic-based, what we're now calling democracy, but is really just about having honest brokers that you give your power to, right, to lead you. I often say, I just wish you had picked a better agent, because the grievances are very legitimate. And it was a mistake to understate them. It was a mistake in any situation, as we both know. It is always a mistake to discount how somebody feels when they're in pain or when they're scared or when they're angry. The worst thing that you can do as a parent, I'm sure, well, you're just getting into the game, but listen to the ghost of Christmas future for you with the kids. When your kids are upset and you look at them and you say, you know, you really shouldn't feel like that. You should. That's going south immediately. Works great with spouses also, by the way. So in politics, you don't blame people for how they feel, right? My father used to joke and say, nobody's ever going to say to you, hey, you don't like your taxes? Make more money. Be more valuable to the economy, and you won't have to worry about what you pay as much. You're not getting their vote, I promise you that. So I think that the mistake that they made was not speaking to the people that Trump wound up representing. Instead, they just decided to blame them for their feelings and say, you're an idiot to vote for Trump. So instead of talking to me about why I'm voting for Trump and what worries me, you're telling me I'm stupid to feel the way I feel? I'll see you at the polls. That was the mistake. I would argue they're still making that mistake. Last night's speech was a very low bar, as we were talking before. I don't know, you know, if you're my opponent, if somebody had asked me if we were in like a debate setting, first of all, I wouldn't have agreed, all right? Because I don't need another beating for no good reason. And you're going to be much better at that than I am. But I would set a very high bar for Candace Owens. I'm telling you that right now. I would be like, you know, she better beat me on every point, 10 out of 10. Otherwise, she's had a bad night. I would not say, I hope that she doesn't trip walking up onto the stage and not remember her name for the next, you know, you set a low bar like that for the president, you're asking for him to get over it. And the bar that was set was, gee, I hope Biden doesn't stroke out during the speech tonight. Okay, he didn't stroke out. What a great night for the president. I mean, this is really poison for us as a people. And you should always have high expectations, right? I mean, again, forget politics. What do you say with your kid? Hey, I hope you pass today. You know, unless it's a driving test, you're really hoping for a little bit better than that, right?
But Chris, do you regret some of the language that you used in talking to Trump supporters? Because I'm willing...
Me personally?
Yeah.
No, because I didn't talk to supporters that way. Again, you get blamed for the outlet. You get blamed for who's around you. You get blamed for what happens. Like there's a clip that flies around the internet of one of my former colleagues saying why he didn't want anybody on the show or on CNN who didn't feel certain ways about vaccination. And I am in the split screen listening to him like this, which is like my resting face, right? Which is just like general dyspeptic, you know, like I have indigestion. And it goes around as a clip as if that's how I feel, because I'm on the screen at that time. It's not how I felt. It's not what I ever said. I never said you're stupid to vote for Trump. I said what I will say, which is I wish you had a better agent for your feelings and for what you want to happen. And I feel like that about both choices you're faced with right now. And I am actually encouraged by the fact that better than 2 out of 3 of you don't like your choices. I like that. I like that you're getting it, that this system has failed you. When Trump and Biden is the best that America can do, we're not living up to our potential. And I think that there are things that need to change that would make it better. What do I regret? And Patrick and I have talked about this, the guys and I have talked about this. It's really hard to have a huge screw up, failure, whatever in your life, and come away with it not saying next time I'll do it differently. Because there is never a universe in which any of my people, my brother, obviously, but the family that I choose in my life, that I'm not there for them. There is no scenario where that happens. And I'm only half as dumb as I look. It's not like I didn't think that my brother being in trouble wasn't going to get on me some way. But I would never not be there for him. And so I can't say I would do it differently. I just wish that I had been smarter about understanding how bad it was going to get for me. In terms of how I did the job, you know, you'd always like a second chance that you do, you know, when you do things in life. But that's not the way life works. You only try to correct it going forwards. You know, at CNN, nobody had people from both sides as much as I did on my show. It's not even a close call. And it's because I've always had the same feeling. One, these people are not my enemies, okay? I had no problem walking into his house with this phalanx of, you know, capable knights that he has here. And when people heard that I was going on his podcast the first time, they were like, boy, you really do hate yourself, huh? This is the beat. And I was like, this is gonna be fine. These guys don't know me, and they don't know what I'm about, and they're judging me by being on CNN, which I don't think is fair about the outlet, but certainly is not fair about me. So, do I wish I had said more early on? You know, this guy's gonna win, by the way. This guy's gonna win. I've never seen people behind someone like this before. I've never been to rallies like that before, for anyone. Obama didn't even have rallies like that. Yeah, but it's easy to feel confident about it after it happened, you know? But we're not, you know, my business doesn't work where when you say something, I say, Candace, that's not the right way to put it, the way you just put it. That's not the way the media works. You don't do that to your own when you broadcast. Now, you can say you don't like that, you do like that. But you can search all day long, and he's got great people who do it. You're not going to find me saying people who vote for Trump are bad people. That they're deplorables, that they're stupid, that you're stupid to feel this way, that you're wrong to care about what you talk to your kids.
I want to make this very clear so everybody understands it. After last time you were on the podcast, the world now knows you're voting for Trump.
100%.
100%. Listen, because when
there's a better chance of me eating my own hand, by the way. I just want you to know. So here's the question I got for you. I want to follow up with this because you and I think it's important to kind of see how you respond to this. When I asked the question from you last time when you were here, you were like, I said, so based on what you're saying, it sounds like you're open to the idea. And you were like, well, open, yes, and you kind of left it open, right? Yeah.
Then within 2 hours, you're trending on Twitter, and you're like, what the hell just happened here? And the trending topic was, Cuomo is voting for Trump.
Yes.
So then all your friends came after you saying how, so it was a wonderful, tell us about that day and what's changed since, did the mob get you to go back to Biden? So what happened with that, the power people that called you? Did they bully you? What happened?
This was first of all, nobody bullies me. It was a nice exercise.
We're here, we'll protect you if they do that.
Thank you, I need it. Yeah. It was I need the protection from the lawsuits that result when I protect myself. It was a nice exercise in what's wrong. Okay, and look, you've been in the same position. Here's what happened. It is not my job to tell you who to vote for. I've never done that. It's really not my job to tell you who I would vote for. Although, you know what? I've been reconsidering what transparency in the media really means and what should be involved with it. And people probably should say, I told you, he fact checks you in like real time.
No. So, Siri doesn't believe you.
So I know, it's like Siri, he's got Chat GPT on my head, you know, it's like everybody's got. But here's what happened. Thank you very much. Here's what happened. I don't tell you who to vote for. I shouldn't. Should you be open to voting for Trump? Of course. Figure out what is in your best. Be selfish. What is best for you, for your family, for your community, for what you care about? That's it. Don't think party. The party is not there for you. You don't even know what the party's about. I say it to Democrats too. What are you about except the GOP is evil? You've allowed this to become a reductive battle of where it's, does he have dementia? Is this guy really demented? So it's madman or dead man. That's your choice. And you're okay with that. So Be open. All voters should be open. Am I open? No, I'm not as open as you. Why? Because I have my own feelings for me and my own judgment. And as I said that day, next part of the problem, context. There is no context. There are only gotchas. So I said, if the former president is betting on my vote to get back in, he's going to have a bad day. That part doesn't get picked up. Why? Not helpful to the media who want to frame me as a changed man because I've gone bad on the media because of what happened to my brother. It's all BS, but it works. And so they attacked me. They attacked me for coming on here. They're going to crush me for sitting down and having a conversation with Tucker Carlson. And that is all part of the problem. The problem is, this morning, I'm talking to people about this, about you. You did very well in the analysis, by the way. I had to keep asking different people. How do you feel about Candace Owens? I was looking for some ammo. I got none. And they would say, I don't have a lot of conversations about this because, people are so divided. That's the problem. Vinny and I were just talking about it. We used to have conversations about this all the time. You didn't think that I was a bad person if I said that I owned a gun, unless I said I was going to take it and come to your house because I was mad at you. Then you had a problem with me. Now, somebody's evil because they believe differently than you. I'm telling you, that's not a natural inclination. That has been foisted upon you by the people in power who benefit from the division. It only works for the parties. It doesn't work for you. A shrinking electorate works for the parties. It doesn't work for you. Anger and division works for the parties. It is so much easier for
Candace,
me to beat Candace by showing that she's wrong than showing that I'm better.
What do you think about what he's saying?
I mean, everything he's saying sounds good. It's just not the Cuomo I remember on CNN. So I'm always hopeful that people in the retrospect...
it's the CNN you don't remember when Cuomo was on
I always just wish that people in the retrospect, because everybody understands humanity, everybody understands change, everybody understands that circumstances makes you see things differently. I remember CNN and you and your brother outside of CNN being really harsh on Trump supporters, and I don't mind that you've distanced yourself from that in a bit, but I think people would appreciate, acknowledging that period of time definitely did happen. And then what I would say is, you guys, the network also brought us the Me Too movement, and then in the end, your brother got bit by the same bullet that you guys were pretty much throwing at everybody else, which is a woman makes an allegation, it's got to be accepted, and a man's life has to be ruined. And so I think that people watching it are watching right now are just going to be like, dude, come on.
But I'm not an apologist from the outlet. I only control what I say.
And you said a lot.
You can't name one thing that I said.
I got to be honest, outside of the clips that circulate, I was not the #1 CNN watcher, but I do know that you're going to live by whatever you're saying right now, because if I can tell you one thing about Trump supporters, they're good on finding the clips and putting it side by side. They were going to have you in 2016 saying something, and then they're going to have you right here saying, I've never said that.
You can do it, but you got to be right about the clip.
If you can ever look backwards and say, I have no regrets, nothing could change, I was great, I just question your sincerity, because I have regrets and changes about every chapter of my life. And so to hear you say that you have none.
But that's not what I said. Which is, of course, part of the problem. You said a lot of
words to say, I never said anything on the network. Things are being attributed to me that I never did. That's pretty much what your answer was,
But that's also the truth.
Okay.
I don't
Like I said, the Trump supporters are fast. Before we get up from this table, they're going to have something you said next to you saying that. I'm just telling you. That's why I always try to be honest. The better chances, and again, I'm not new to this, okay? And I understand the game. And sometimes it's entertaining. Sometimes it's ruinous to getting anywhere that could be deemed progress, but that's not really the point. The point is to get paid. The point is to get a following. The point is to stoke anger. And I don't think Trump voters are a monolith. I think they're being forced to be a monolith. I live in a county that's Trumpy, in a village that's Trumpy. I'm a fisherman and I'm a fighter. And most of the guys that I'm with are Trump supporters, okay? So I understand it. I understand it. And I don't believe in the color of the collar. I believe
in where people's values are. Doesn't matter if you wear a tie or you wear a set of overalls. It's about what's in your head and what's in your heart. You can find whatever you want, but what's going to happen most likely is that you're going to take a clip that somebody put together for you online that is manipulated, and it will suit an agenda, and you will go with it, and you'll play gotcha. And I just don't, you do it, knock yourself out. I just don't think it gets you to a better place.
Okay, if you have no regrets and you think that your
I
record was
always
perfect,
have regrets.
I
always have regrets.
Saying the exact opposite.
No, I'm saying this. I don't have any regrets about helping my brother. I don't know what I would have done differently.
No, not about
I'm
that.
saying
just
in terms of my time at
about
CNN,
the network and you know.
I don't control what a network does. I don't control what News Nation does.
Your time at the network. Your time at the network.
I said, in answer to the question,
do I
wish I had said things differently that would have been more reflective of a reality I saw coming? Yes, but I wasn't in the business of demonizing people for voting one person or another. I will never apologize for pointing out when a politician or a person in power goes out of their way to not tell the truth, to divide, and to manipulate. The answer is, yeah, but you got to do it to both sides. Yes, you're right. You have to do it to both sides. But it doesn't mean that it's coming at you the same way from both sides. What Hillary said about the Trump people was stupid for her to say. And she really paid a price for it. But to say that everything is equal, that's a false parody. And it doesn't help people.
So we got 2.5 hours here together left, 2 hours and 20 minutes left. I got a lot of other topics to talk about. One of the things I'd like to get to eventually today is the concept of establishment versus non-establishment. We don't need to do that right now. We can get right into the topic of the State of the Union. Candace, your thoughts. State of the Union yesterday, you know, Joe Biden, I think they were late. I don't know how long they were
26
late.
minutes till he touched the mic.
26 minutes.
26 minutes till he got to the podium.
Okay, so Vinny's following the numbers. He was tracking because Vinny couldn't wait for it. He's like, can we start earlier? So 26 minutes. I think he coughed 27 times. I don't know how many times he coughed. He talked about his Trump 13 times. But you know, there's a lot of different statistics that we can get into. Candace, your thoughts on yesterday's State of the Union speech?
You know, I'm happy he made it through the end. The bar has been very low, and he didn't die. So, I think my perception always is that in those 26 minutes, they're giving him an injection of adrenaline in the butt and hoping he stays alive. And he did. Yeah, they're giving him something, obviously, just to get him through it, which is really sad. And I think that all of it feels tremendously performative. So you can go over aspects, you can save this person, there's one. At the end of the day, the American people are very awake to what's happening on both sides of the aisle. People are awake. This is why they're distancing themselves from the mainstream networks. And to give a speech about even titling it a State of the Union, as you said accurately, it's a state of disunion. And you get angry. You get angry at it. No matter what clip you take out of it, no matter what discussion you want to have, the American people know that we are not being led by the President of the United States. We know that he does not have the mental faculties to lead, and therefore there must exist a shadow government, right? And we want to know who that shadow government is. Why don't you stand up and give a speech for a couple of hours and tell us about your incentives and tell us about what we're doing in Ukraine, what we're doing overseas? Because this puppet presidency is nothing short of infuriating for the public to have to sit here and watch.
Tom.
I agree. I felt like he was propped up, and I think that State of the Union address will be known for the tone that he delivered, but not for any messages he delivered. You know, you go back and you look at Obama. Obama did the State of the Union, and we all understood there were 30 million people that needed health care, and this is my plan. Now, we would later find out it's the most inflationary, health care act in the history of mankind. But we knew that he was all about, let's get 30 million people health care coverage. So there was something to it. In last night's speech, he was angry, he was upset, he was driving. I think people remember the tone, but you go 2 weeks from now, 2 seconds from now, and ask people, what did he say? What was the thrust for America? What was something that's going to change? It's like, I don't know. But he didn't fall down.
Vinny.
Yeah, well, you nailed it, Chris. New York Post, the front page says he's alive. Like that's the message. But
it's like an Easter message.
Yeah, no, it's just. And
he is risen, but it's basically the same thing.
The second,
he is risen.
By the way, you got to give him credit. That may be Tom's best joke so far.
So far.
Yes or no?
Funny joke.
What's the best one? Go ahead, Vinny.
But I mean,
Easy does it, Prince.
it was obvious. I mean, and we've been seeing this for almost 4 years now. Every time you hear Biden speak, it's, hey, I'm gonna get in trouble. They won't let me do this. They don't. It'd be great to find out who's the they. Tony Blinken, if you guys saw when they cut to him, Tony Blinken looked like he was gonna crap in his pants because they're on edge because God knows what's gonna happen. But I think there's definitely somebody else, and this is a big wake-up call for America. You know that this president isn't calling zero shots, any shots, okay? And the reason the swamp hated Trump, he was making the decisions. You never heard Trump say, hey, they told me or this. It was, I'm doing this for us, and that's why everybody went after him, because he wasn't answering to anybody. And I think we finally now know that cocaine that was lost in the White House, who was using it, and it was Hunter and Joe Biden at the same time.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
That's according to you. Nobody else is saying it, but maybe you have some context we don't know about. Adam.
Well, this might be controversial, but given what we've all said about Joe Biden, I thought he crushed it. Now, hear me out. Hear me out, because I think Chris Cuomo is absolutely right. When you set the bar so low, for the president, whoever it is, and they just don't die on stage, you have to give them an A.
This is the run.
There you go. So
Live.
exactly.
It's an Easter
So
message.
you saw in the Wall Street Journal, Peggy Noonan basically said there's still some fight in the old guys still left. So when you basically set the bar so low, as Chris Cuomo said, and you said that like he can't tie his shoes and can't tie two sentences together when he just delivers a very average speech that was somewhat energetic, and you're expecting an F, and he does a C, everyone's gonna be like, well, it was actually a B. And like, that's the whole thing. I mean, we have a bet right now whether he's actually gonna be the nominee. And I'm just following the Henry Kissinger model of realpolitik. I'm just looking at what's in front of me, and the guy's gonna be the nominee, like it or not. No, and you're talking to somebody that has never voted for a Republican president in his life. And I'm truly, truly considering Trump at this point. But I think that just goes to show, not so much Biden, where this Democratic Party has gone. My dad was a JFK guy, Bill Clinton, not a Hillary guy, Bill Clinton. But I think most Democrats, as Dave Rubin has basically called me, and he's taken credit for like where I'm at now, I think a lot of common sense, independent, liberal, Democrat with the lowercase d are just like, yeah, I wasn't a Trump guy, I'm not a fan of some of the rhetoric he uses, but whatever's going on the left of me over here, this wokeness, this DEI, the ESG, like Cuomo and I are pretty similar. Like, we're dudes, we like sports, we like women, we like football, like whatever's going on in the Democratic left trans situation, I'm just like, yeah, I'll take the Trump guy with the plane and the hot chick. And that's kind of where I'm at now.
Wait, can I also add the contrast, by the way, and I think that this is actually relevant, but you also have to recognize that Tucker just went over and interviewed Vladimir Putin. And this is significant because then you saw what it looks like when somebody not only has the mental faculty, I mean, irrespective of what you thought about the interview, you cannot, you are forced to acknowledge that he's an incredibly smart person. I mean, he started in the 8th century. I mean, I don't even think Tucker thought he was being trolled, right? It's just, well, in 8th century, and he's going through the entire history of Russia, starting from the 8th century, right? And truly, Biden couldn't have started from yesterday at 8 p.m. and recounted what he had done. So there's also this contrast that's playing out.
But it's a very good point you're making, because as a leader of a nation, you want somebody to be able to impose themselves. He gave a clinic and taught the world Russian history.
Right.
If you really think about it. Hey, this is what we're all about. I know I gave you 2 hours. I'm going to teach the world why I'm doing what I'm doing. This is the reason, right? And you can love him, you can hate him. You cannot criticize him for his agenda that he came in to do. And we did not see that yesterday.
Correct.
And by the way, how about yourself? What did you think about it?
I think that it is not good that you're using Vladimir Putin as some type of positive attribute metaphor for a leader.
That's not.
okay?
That's not what I did at all.
Well, you're
just was saying that people
you're
have
saying,
just
well, he's
seen-
smart.
He
He's
is smart. So why would you not acknowledge someone smart? What does that do? Does that make me a Putin supporter? Because you're clearly smart.
No,
if you can sit down and unpack Russian history
All right, but
from
what's
the
the
8th
point?
century, what do you mean? What the point?
What's
The point
the
is
point?
to say that the entire world can now see this contrast of a man who can't remember what happened 2 hours ago, who still thinks that his son is alive, sadly, and often brings up his son as if he's
That's
still
not
alive.
true.
What do you mean that's not? What is
you
not
don't
true?
need. See, look.
What is
you-
not
you-
true, Chris? Actually say
He
what
does
is not true.
think. You're really going to say that Joe Biden believes that his son Beau is alive?
He has done that on camera. He has said
He has misspoken as an old man that is talking about
that's
something
the
that
problem.
hurts him.
Listen to you. No, because see, Chris,
Listen,
Chris.
listen, again.
There's no reason to do. There's no reason to do
Look.
this. You're doing so great. I'm not going to let you do this to yourself. Like
Listen.
what? No, seriously. There's no reason to do it. There's no reason to do it. Obviously, Vladimir Putin is intelligent. There's no reason, doesn't make you anything to acknowledge the fact that any person that can for an hour straight unpack the history of their country starting from the 8th century
Right.
has their mental faculties about them.
Okay.
That is the only
Here's
thing
the
that I have
thing.
made, and I said that
Here's the
contrast
thing.
is
First-
now playing out in the American people's mind of, wow,
Yes.
okay, I don't care what I think about Vladimir Putin or Russia, right? But the fact that they have a leader who can speak in this manner,
Okay.
right? Who is able to remember these things and to communicate in this manner makes us aware of how much we are not getting out of our own leaders. That is a very valid point.
Okay, I get it. I hear you, and I completely disagree. Okay, because again, picking a metric of what's the guy's IQ is not enough for me. First of all, he did not give you. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Because it's what do you do with your intelligence? You think he gave you an accurate recitation of Russian history starting in the 8th century because Candace just said so. She's wrong and you're wrong, okay? He did not give you an accurate recitation. He gave you a KGB doctored look at why it's okay that he wants to reestablish the Soviet Union. That's what he gave.
Oh, stop it.
Listen,
Stop
I'm not here
it.
to play Russia good, Russia bad, okay?
Russia has a smaller GDP than California. He's
So
not,
what?
it's
So what? They're
you're-
also
you're
invading a
relying
country
on
right now
belief
just for
that
avarice.
Americans are economically
Look,
so
what
unintelligible that they are going to believe
What I'm
that
saying
the threat
is-
that we are facing today is Russia trying to reestablish. So this is like Cold War propaganda. We got to move on from that, okay?
But it's just as real now
this
as it
isn't
was
the
then.
1960s.
And remember, in America, these people are allowed to be here right now doing things they could never do in Russia. Never. Nobody can speak out against Putin. He is at over 75% in popularity polls because people know what happens if you answer differently. They make no money. They have no press freedoms. When they try to exercise themselves, even on the internet,
Starting to
they
sound
get
like
chased.
America today, because January
Well,
6ers
and-
are locked
and that
up
is-
for
and that
wrong
is
think.
something
You
to-
locked up grandmas for expressing
That
their
is something to be
opinions.
concerned about.
You are saying
That is
if
something
you
to be
speak-
concerned about.
That is correct.
Not
Freedom
admired,
of press. You're
but
sitting
used
here.
as a point
they
of
wanted
fear.
to arrest Tucker Carlson for going over to speak to a leader of a country that we are allegedly not at
Listen,
war with.
listen.
So you're also describing America while you are
I
telling
am
us.
not describing America.
Yeah,
I'm describing what America should not be. So be careful about putting up a model of what you think has some value.
Nobody said there
That's
was a
what I'm
model.
saying.
We just said that it's
That's what I'm
very
saying.
obvious that Putin can complete a sentence and that Biden can't.
Yeah,
and
he
I'm
can
not,
complete a sentence. He can
this
also
weird
likely
Cold War
murder his
vibe.
opponents. And that's a function of his intelligence also, because it's not guided by any sense of morality. And that matters too. And Tucker making the decision.
Gonzalo Lira was just killed by Zelensky. He's a thug. We shouldn't be supporting
Listen,
Ukraine at all, not a
Look,
single dollar.
Even if that were true, which neither of us know whether it is, then that's a policy argument. Have the policy argument. The idea of good and evil, right and wrong, cheapens it. It cheapens it.
But you just did that.
I'm not doing it. I'm doing the
by
opposite.
The fact
I'm
that
not
I acknowledged
triggered. What are you,
that
19?
Putin,
We're using 19-year-old woke language now that I'm triggered?
Okay, are you
I'm
just-
not triggered. I got my
you're
legs
try-
crossed.
you're-
It means I'm comfortable.
Okay, well, you just seemed a little triggered. You like
Well, I don't like
literally
setting up Putin as a model.
triggered. I didn't. Nobody here. Everyone is listening to what I said, and I'm gonna not just double down. I'm gonna triple down, quadruple down on the fact that it's very obvious to the American people
Yes.
that our leaders are extremely lackluster, and that
Agreed.
has been made even more
Agreed. I said the
abundantly
same.
clear after having watched Tucker Carlson sit across from Vladimir Putin, which was heroic on his part, because we are tired of being propagandized. We are tired of people pretending, if you live in Russia, there's going to be so much propaganda. There's so much propaganda here.
I agree.
Okay, we are suffering from the exact same things
I agree.
that you accuse Vladimir Putin of doing.
I agree.
Locking up people's opponents, right?
I agree. I don't agree with locking up their opponents.
FBI agents showing up on American people's doorsteps because they attended a rally on January 6th. 3 of my friends had FBI agents. They didn't even step foot in the Capitol, okay? Had FBI agents show up because they wanted any person that even showed up to hear Trump speak on January 6th to feel threatened by that, because the establishment said that you weren't allowed to support Donald Trump, okay? So I'm going to speak to how the public is feeling right now. And we are very aware of the fact that Joe Biden could potentially be dead right now, okay? We don't even know, like, he can barely make it through a sentence. And when we see somebody
You do
like
know
Vladimir
that Joe
Putin,
Biden is
who
not
is
dead,
able to,
right?
is what?
You do know that Joe Biden's
being
not dead.
tongue-in-cheek.
And you do know that he
That was
wasn't
tongue-in-cheek.
shot up with something
No, I actually do.
before
I
he went out there.
actually do believe he was shot
I
up
don't
with
think we know
adrenaline
that.
before he
Come
goes. I think,
on.
what do you mean, come on?
Come
JFK used
on.
to do that.
Come on.
So it's like,
listen,
they obviously are giving him drugs before he
The truth
speaks.
is enough. And I'll tell you why it becomes problematic, okay? Look, it's a half joke. They shot Biden up with something last night.
It's not a half joke. I
But
really
here's
believe that. I wanna
here's
be
what
clear.
happens. Well, look, if you really believe that,
Yes.
that's fine. It would be just nice to have a basis for it. But
Yeah.
yeah, he's going to take a drug test. Okay. Look, here's what's going to happen. Here's what's going to happen, okay? Just trust me on this, because you've already seen it. You're going to know that it's already true. You are allowing for a BS standard of appraisal. So now
Intelligent is a BS standard.
it's not intelligent. It's the shooting up part. So now they'll start showing clips of Trump where it seems that he's not speaking fluidly. And they'll talk about whether he's on drugs. And
They did
then
that already.
They will, but that's what you enable with this. I'm saying just stick with the truth. Are our leaders performing the way we need them to be? It's a rhetorical question. No. You had in Congress last night, I forget who smacked me with this stat, but it was a great one. 14% popularity for members of Congress, right? That sounds about right. It's somewhere between 12% and 20%, depending on the poll. 94% re-election rate. How do you have such low popularity and such high re-election rate? Because the game is rigged. That's why. Now, the truth is enough, okay? Just stick with the truth. The problem is when you get into these situations of comparing a guy who's just a bad guy with what you want in your own leadership, I don't think it sends you to the right place.
The truth is that Vladimir Putin was able to communicate in a way that was coherent.
Would you want Vladimir Putin to be your president?
This is such a fine statement.
Would you want Vladimir Putin to be your president?
That's not what I said.
I'm asking you a question.
That's not what I said.
I'm asking you a
but
question.
you're asking the question because you still cannot deal with the fact that I have accurately described Vladimir Putin as coherent. He is.
There's no question he's coherent. I'm
Do you
just saying.
think he's smart?
I think he's an intelligent man, yes.
That's all I said. Oh my God, we got there. We can move on. Good.
listen.
Oh my God, we got there. It's just, that's all I said, right?
But
Okay,
it's
cool.
about why you're using him
Okay.
as an instruction.
Because
I have sat
I
across
just
from
said
serial killers that are intelligent men.
Because
I don't want them deciding my taxes.
Did I say that I wanted Vladimir Putin to set my
But
taxes?
why? But
I just
why
wanted to make
hold
sure
him
that
up
we're
as an
all-
example? Why hold him up as an
because we
example?
are talking about
it's
the
like when
American
Trump said
people's
Duterte is a
mindset.
tough guy.
Everyone
Why
else is able
do
to
that?
comprehend this, so I'm going to reset it one more time.
One more time.
Okay? We are talking about the State of the Union. I am talking about the mindset of
Yes.
Americans that understand this is all very performative and the insult
Yes.
to have him up there as if he is the leader of our nation, especially following the interview that we all watched in which Vladimir Putin first and foremost made it clear that he doesn't
I hear
view
it.
our leaders as even leading the country. He views them all as puppets, and that he
I
deals,
hear it, but
he
you're
deals with the
still
CIA.
using Putin as a positive comparison
this
to who
is-
we have. I mean, I don't know what I'm missing in terms of the logic.
This is
of it.
how I take it.
You are missing-
Chris, this is how I take it from the outside. I take it as I want to know everybody's leader on how they are, how formidable they are,
Yes.
and can mine go up against that leader. If Putin and Biden are in a negotiation table, we're going to lose.
Yeah,
That's all I'm thinking about. So for me, I think about somebody being able to sit up against him to say, hey, you got to knock it off with this Ukraine stuff. By the way, let's process this in a different way. We had, I don't know who I was having this conversation with. It's like, well, you know what do you think about this and what do you think about that? I said, listen, we have 4 years of data, pure data of what happened under Trump. They can't play that same game as, aren't you afraid that he has access to the button? He's actually one of the 46 people ever who had access to the button and never used it, and there was no wars, right? For 4 years. It was peaceful. We didn't have no Ukraine, nothing, Afghanistan, nothing going on, no Israel, Hamas, nothing going on, right? This guy's here, he's got access to everything for 3 years. What do we have going on? What we did with Afghanistan, they're wearing our uniform now. What happened with Ukraine and Russia, what happened with Israel and Hamas. According to pure data, one doesn't know how to sit across another alpha and say, check yourself, stop, you cannot behave like this again. That's purely how I process the difference between Putin and Biden. I don't sit there and look at Biden and say, man, I can't wait for this guy to go into the boardroom. He's going to crush it in the boardroom behind closed doors negotiating. I say, please don't keep it behind closed doors. I want to see exactly how he's going to be negotiated. He doesn't give you that kind of a confidence. By the way, State of the Union, for the people that are watching, if we were to kind of break it down on what were some of the things that were discussed, this is kind of what I took away from it. I'm curious to know what you guys think about purely issues. He talked about abortion, and he looked at the Supreme Court, and he's preaching at them. And did you guys notice how they were so, it's as if, is it 5-4 or is it 6-3? Which
6-3.
It's 6-3 is what it is. But they were fully unified against the president. No, brother, we're on the same page here. We're not breaking. Not one Supreme Court went like this. Who voted for Roe v. Wade, which tells you, hey, we are unified. The Supreme Court was unified against the president. That was a very interesting dynamic for me to see yesterday. So he went after Roe v. Wade, get it. He's giving out messaging, women, and the red wave we were expecting last year didn't happen. He may be right in that area, but he is going after them. Next. Then he talked about what do you call it, supporting the next big war, which is what? Ukraine. Hey, you know, what makes you think this is where he's going to stop? And what if after Ukraine, you think he's going to stop there? And, you know, maybe he's alluding to the fact that he's going to go after Poland or whatever else is going to be the next thing he's going to do. And he's getting more of these guys to give more money, $60 billion to Ukraine. And then he's saying if the border really matters, then do something about it. Yet out of the $118 billion, you call the border bill, only 20 of it, 15, 16, 17% of it is going to the border, and the other money is going to Ukraine. So you care more about the Ukrainian border than the U.S. border, while we're getting how many people that have already come here? Give or take 10 million people. And we saw what Egypt did to their wall, and that beautiful wall they built in Egypt and Israel. And we even broke down the math on what it was and how much it would cost for us to build it. We broke it down to $4.8 billion. And we even said America likes to overpay. $20 billion, you can build the same exact type of a wall to protect the southern border. We're not having that kind of conversation. Yeah, wonderful wall these guys built there.
In Egypt.
And then the other thing that he talked about is somehow defending transgenders. I thought I was confusing. You know how small of a community that is to talk about that. And last but not least, I mean, obviously there's other issues. One of the things that was so confusing was this. Do you know how much billionaires pay in taxes? And everybody's saying their numbers. He says it's actually, I think, said 8.2 or 8.3%, whatever number he said. He says, do you know what would happen if we can tax billionaires? 25%. That would allow us to get $500 billion the next 10 years. Imagine that. And I'm like, bro, you print a couple trillion and spend it like this. What makes you think I want you taking money away from capitalists? First, show me. Here's how I would agree to that, by the way. Why don't you take the $34 trillion to 25 trillion? Then we'll agree to something like that. But if you don't even know how to control your spending, who the hell are you to tell us how we should control our spending? It's almost a little bit offensive to ask us to be able to do that. Show us you know how to manage your finances. So I was a little bit annoyed by that. However, if you do think about it, what was that really about last night? To me, my interpretation, I may be wrong, call it out, I'm comfortable with it. My interpretation of last night was the fact that it was a tryout. It was almost like a, hey, Democrats, trust me, I'm your guy. Like, oh, this guy's got it, and he's gonna do it. So, and this is a part where I'll agree with Adam. I actually think he did better than people thought he was going to do because, again, the bar is so low. We're kind of like, okay, he stayed there for an hour. By the way, just so you guys know, record for the most longest State of the Union, Clinton has the record for an hour and 28 minutes and 49 seconds. Nixon did the shortest in 29 minutes, 28 minutes. He came in, he says, I couldn't wait to get out. Guys, bye, out, right?
I am not a crook.
That's what we're doing. But so to me, it was more of that. And then so at the end, there's a scene where you're looking at Nancy Pelosi, and you're almost seeing tears in her eyes. I don't know if you saw that or not. And I'm not being sarcastic. I'm actually looking at her and saying, and she kept saying, 4 more years, 4 more years, 4 more years. Republicans, let me kind of give you a little bit something for you guys to be thinking about from my perspective. Why are you upset? You should be very happy that it's not Newsom or Michelle Obama. You should be rooting for him right now. Republicans behind closed doors should do what the Democrats did, and they're like, no, we want Trump to run when they wanted him to run in 2020 because they, all the stuff that they were doing. No. You want Biden to be running because Biden has nothing to be running on right now except for a couple different things. The average family is getting destroyed. The average family is worried about the border. Here we have Jen Psaki and Rachel Maddow on MSNBC. Rob, if you got this clip, laughing, saying, did you guys see the Americans are worried about the border as if that's a real issue? What? Like, who are you to think like to you it's not an issue because you're living in a bordered building that's secure and you're thinking the American people are not worried about it? What an elitist you are to look at us and talk to us that way. Rob, I don't know if you have that clip. If you do, I play this clip here. Watch this here.
I mean, if you look at some of these exit polls, I mean, I live in Virginia. Immigration was the ¡1 issue. I mean, again, these could change in Virginia.
Well, Virginia does have a border with West Virginia. Very, very contested area.
Build the wall. Like, what?
Like what?
And Pat, mind you, they're laughing, and just a couple of days before that, an 11-year-old girl was raped and killed by an illegal in her Virginia, and it's not a problem. That's ridiculous that she's saying something crazy like that.
Yeah, but it's condescending to not think that. So to me, for the Republicans, I'm on Jesse Waters. He's asking me these questions about Biden. How did you think he's doing? He was on Seth Meyers. He's on this. I'm like, awesome. You know what I'm saying? Keep going. This is good. You want him to be the candidate? Because 2024 is not 2020. It's a very different thing. 2020, there were people that hoped, guys like yourself were hoping that Biden maybe bring in peace to America and maybe the temperature is going to come down. The temperature went up. He didn't bring the temperature down. And this is you didn't vote. You voted in 2020, the Dems and some of the independents in the middle, assuming he was going to bring it down. Now you have proof for 3.5 years he was not capable of doing it. This is not going to be the same 2020 election cycle we're going to have in 2020. My guess is it's going to be very different, and you want Biden as the candidate, not Newsom or Michelle Obama. Tom.
The American people are not dumb. I was looking for some surveys and some results, the American people speaking about what they thought. They're the voters. They're the people. Let's see what they think. And so I didn't go to Fox. I didn't go to MSNBC. I didn't go to Drudge. I went to CNN. And CNN, this is last year. We'll start with last year. Last year, 34% said they had a positive reaction, very positive reaction, to the president's State of the Union address. By the way, that was the lowest since they started measuring it this way in 1998. Last night, came in this morning, 35%. I have faith in the American people. So this is back to back.
This is CNN reporting.
CNN reporting. There it is.
Wow.
Back to back. And they run the headline, 6 in 10 State of the Union viewers had a positive reaction to Biden's speech. No. You read down in that, 35% said I was very positive last year, the lowest since 98, 34%. This year, he's up to 35%. There it is.
Got it. So 34, 35.
So the American people are not fooled by the tone. They're looking for leadership and they're looking for specifics on how you're going to make the border better, how you're going to make their economy better. Let's not talk about the economy. Let's add 2 words to it, IR. Their economy is what matters. What matters is individuals' economy.
Adam.
Well, you started off talking about capitalism and taxes and all that. So for me, follow the money. Biden, one of his loudest applause when he was talking about, the corporations need to pay their fair share. I imposed a 15% minimum corporate tax and I want to bump it up to 21, right? I'm like, okay, got it. But I think it's, they bring a handful of special guests. They want to single out some case examples. And there's some Americans that, The one guy, college debt, now his kid can go to college, the one girl. But the two people that stood out to me the most, number one, was the guy Sean Fain, who was the UAW union chief. We all remember that, right? So your unions built the middle class, and the middle class, I want to build the middle out and the bottom up and not from the top down. Yeah, Sean Fain, this guy right here. Now, if you haven't followed this story, we've all seen the Hollywood strikes and the auto worker strikes. Sean Fain was on MSNBC, on Kristen Welker's Meet the Press. And you know what he said about billionaires? Billionaires should not exist. So I said, hold on, guy. What's this guy all about? So like when you go deep down the rabbit hole, awesome, middle class, awesome, unions, awesome, that's created America. Cool, who doesn't want that? But when you go to their leader and he says things like, I don't want billionaires to exist, it gives me a little bit of pause. Capitalism. The second biggest thing, which Candace will probably
Or Marxism is what he's talking about.
Yeah, collectivism, Marxism, not a fan. And Biden, by the way, give him credit. He goes, I'm a capitalist. I want you guys to make money, Wall Street. You're not bad guys, but I want the middle class. Did you know who was sitting next to Jill Biden? This isn't like near her. This isn't near, the second husband, whatever that guy's deal is.
Was it the Swedish guy?
Was the newest member of NATO,
Yeah.
Sweden's prime minister. Yeah. And for sure, they hugged, they embraced to just basically symbolize Ukraine, we're with you. NATO, we're with you. And that was a very symbolic moment.
Candace, thoughts on when Biden was talking from stage and he said, we're with Ukraine, and you saw Speaker Johnson kind of go like this. Because you got to realize, if you counted the number of times Kamala did squats, 50 squats, her legs have a workout afterwards.
Big time.
Johnson, 0 chicken legs afterwards. So did you guys notice that? He didn't stand up one time. I was worried about his legs.
On the Cuomo workout plan.
But the point is, he went like this, and he rarely went like this. So what did you think, from a Johnson standpoint with his support for Ukraine? And Tucker's also a little bit concerned about it. What are your thoughts on that?
I want to be very clear. If there's any way that I have adapted my own thought process over the years, it is just the full recognition that the American people have been sold out from both sides of the aisle, right? They keep us warring with one another because it is a criminal enterprise at the top. And black versus white, tall versus short, rich versus poor. And so you see that language, yes, that Marxist language. We just need to steal more. We haven't stolen enough. That's the reason why you're suffering at the pump. We just need to steal from the billionaires more, actually relying again on economic ignorance because, of course, it is the billionaires who produce jobs that give people the opportunities. They have their wealth because they're providing opportunities to more people that can, also have that economic growth throughout their lifetimes. That economic mobility is what we fight for in America. And so I understand it now. I understand it when I see people nodding. I understand what Eisenhower warned against with the military-industrial complex. I understand why it is that the Pentagon just can't find the billions of dollars every time they do an accounting. Oopsies, we lost it, because these are money laundering operations, okay? And it is your money that they are laundering, right? They never want these wars to end. It is so obvious. There's just no way. Can we take a 5-minute break from dropping bombs? Can we get 5 months of no drama? What was it, a week after we left Afghanistan and left all of the weaponry? They then announced that we're locking up with Ukraine, and money's going this way. It's never ending, it's perpetual, and it's not because Ukraine is a democracy, a beacon of democracy. Don't believe me? Go read the New York Times about Zelensky and Ukraine 3 years ago, what they were saying about the money and the corruption in that area. It's because he's a part of it. He's a part of their syndicate. The media wants to convince you that Zelensky's some good hero fighting for democracy because they know that you probably don't understand the politics in Ukraine, relying on our ignorance, the American people's ignorance, to think that if they keep saying we're spreading democracy, we're not spreading anything but your tax dollars, okay, to foreign countries so we can launder it back to the exact same people that sold you out in the first place. So it's a Republican, and it's Democrat, and it's cancerous.
I think a lot of it is sad. I think the more that you guys recognize what the two-party dynamic is about, what it rewards and why, I don't see it in the same characterizations that you do, but I'm not in the position business. You know what I mean? I'm in the analysis business of it, and I get why they applaud, and I get why you're concerned, and I get all these metrics. But I just, it's interesting when it's all a function of your perspective. Headlines are one of the worst things in the media. They've always been that way, by the way. The headline has always been deceptive. Nobody reads the piece. There's a formula when it comes to writing pieces where the counter is usually like 5 paragraphs down. Why? Because nobody's going to go 5 paragraphs down. But then they feel like they're being fair. That's why I very rarely talk to the media. That's ironic, right? Because I'm in it, right? But the media is not a monolith. I don't talk to them because I know what they're going to write because I do the same job. I know what the story is on me. I know how they're going to cover things. Okay. Ukraine. Johnson was nodding because his caucus wants to do the funding. So he's nodding because it reflects the position of his caucus. Why do they want to fund Ukraine? I believe that there is a consensus among the leadership that they see Zelensky more as a change agent than as more of the same in Ukraine. Your history of Ukraine is right, and it's obvious. Ukraine has been a dirty place for a long time. It's a kleptocracy. He is perceived as somebody who's going to change that. Is he or is he not? I don't know. You'll get information on both sides. He has been a little distracted from changing his country by the fact that he has an existential threat against it in the form of Russia. Are we spreading democracy? I don't even know anymore if democracy is really a suitable system for a lot of countries and cultures. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not saying democracy bad. I'm not saying that. It's certainly right for us here. I just don't know that that's what America should be in the business of doing. Do I understand why they do it? Yes. Do I think it's interesting? And do I have my own locked-in frame that I can't get out of, which is what I see of a lot of people in politics? I do. I can't get away from my I want to pick the right word, but I'll just go with this one, hate of the two-party system. It used to be, I'm old, right? I remember when you couldn't find conservatives or Republicans who were against any foreign intervention. You could not find it. They used to call them hawks, that they were involved in wanting to fight everywhere, all over the world in the interest of democracy. It was one of Reagan's most envied positions of strength, okay? Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall, you know? Yup, he's gonna do it because we're gonna come and beat your ass otherwise. Now, it's completely flipped. My father's Democratic Party, may he rest in peace, were all the Trump constituents. My father's Democratic Party was all the people. Now, he was not fighting for those people on the same bases that Trump was. Why? My pop was a different guy from a different time. One of the last jokes he told before he died, and he did have dementia, by the way, so I've seen it in real time, and I understand people's concerns about what we're dealing with right now, was he read something about me and my ascendancy in the media and white privilege. And someone had to read it to my father. At the end of his life, he lost the ability to read, which was very sad for him. And he clapped his hands. He went, hot damn, we made it. Christopher's white. Because he had been seen as an ethnic. Yeah. And he used to be described differently because of his ethnicity as a first-generation Italian. The dark-skinned, swarthy, mercurial Mario, prone to fits of anger, mafiosi, gap-toothed grin, dark circles under his eyes. This was all code, right? This was all code for a brown dude. That's the way they saw him. And he couldn't get hired, and he had to share being valedictorian with an Irish guy. He had all these little things. But the parties used to be the opposite of what they are now. What does that tell you? It's a game. It's a game. And the analysis is right that you see it. And then the hard part is, well, what do you do about it? And I do believe that, you know what, sometimes it's okay to recognize a problem and be angry about it. And look, I get and I respect and I appreciate where you're coming from. You have a level of frustration that you want recognized by the people who are in positions of forwarding those agendas. You want it recognized. I don't begrudge you that. I get it. I just think that nothing changes if nothing changes. And so what do you do about this two-party system and how it's locked in? Biden is saying tax the rich because it works for Democrats, okay? And it also is starting to get a little traction with what Congressman Burchett, you guys know him from Tennessee? He's an interesting guy to watch, and I'll tell you why. Sure, he's messed up. He said some things he shouldn't have said, okay? And he was a little too cautious about apologizing because you get killed for apologizing these days. Because again, politics isn't like the rest of life, where if you care about somebody in a relationship, you apologize when you mess up and they'll judge you on how you go forward. Doesn't work like that in politics or with the media. They'll kill you for apologizing. But Burchett says, you know why we can't get anything done? It's not my people. It's not even the Democrats. He says it's the uniparty. And he says it like you'll know what he's talking about, which most people won't. What uniparty? He's talking about the corporate interests and the lobbyists that strong-arm people on both sides of the aisle, as Candace Owens is saying. And he says it right out there, which is why a lot of people don't like him in politics. You have to do something about that. So now you have Bobby Kennedy Jr. in the race, okay? Whether you like that or you don't like that, obviously that's your right. I have him on the show. I get crushed for having him on the show. Okay, why do I get crushed for having him on the show? Because you're going to get Biden elected. Now, early on, they thought he may take Trump voters. That never made any sense. A guy named Kennedy, I don't care what he says about vaccines. Eventually, he's going to read as a Democrat because he is a Democrat, right? So he's hurting Biden. You're going to help Trump win. Here's my point. Again, I'm old enough. Do you remember Ross Perot? Do you remember that election? Of course. Do you remember what happened within the ranks of the GOP after that election? Anybody? So you'd had 1994, right? The election that took my father out. He wasn't supposed to run for re-election. His numbers were in the tank. His personal favorability was high, but his job performance was low. The economy sucked, and the dominant social issue at the time was death penalty. And my father would not shut up about the death penalty being wrong. He could not say it enough. And it was at 65% in his own state. And he wouldn't shut up about it. But that's who Pop was. He was about the politics of inconvenience. Like he would constantly say things that would get him in trouble because he was a principle guy. They don't exist anymore. So the contract with America happens, okay? Getting people on board with their own interests. Wipes out the Democrats, wipes them out. My father loses to George Pataki, who goes on to have 3 terms himself after the mighty Mario, a guy who nobody knew gets 3 terms just like Mario did. Why? Because that's the two-party game. That's the two-party game. It always balances out for them.
Then what that does to me, Chris, the more you're saying that, you said the difference between you and Candace and the rest of us is perspective versus analysis, right? Okay, fine.
No. First of all, with me and Candace, probably 40 IQ points on her part. She's very smart. But it's that I'm not in the business of creating positions, justifying positions.
Right.
I am just more of a probative animal of looking at positions.
Do you think we're making a right decision, sending more and more money to Ukraine? You think that's the right move? You think we need to send the next $60 billion to them?
The amount of money is always easy to reject. Here's the problem, and you would never do this in any of your businesses, and you get great people advice about this, even with the clothing thing that you did the other day, which was really good. I actually did that in my closet. Turns out I have horrible taste. But it's not about the amount of money. The amount of money scares us when you hear the numbers because they're humongous, right? It's what are you doing with it and why are you doing it? That's the part. So with Ukraine, I understand the policy interests. I understand that you can agree with them or disagree with them. And you absolutely should, and you should vote on that basis. But it's not the amount that matters to me. It's what do you expect to happen with that money and how much of it will actually go there? They do have a skim problem. We have a skim problem everywhere we give money, by the way. It's always
Chris,
that way.
it's very simple. The skim problem is going to happen. I'm asking
Skim's going to happen.
Okay, so do you support them sending that $60 billion to Ukraine, the next $60 billion?
Yes or no?
Yeah, it's simple.
I understand.
No, we want like.
I know you do, but here's.
I got 5 more topics I want to go through. So
I know, but look, the reason I pause matters.
No. Yes or no.
But here's the thing. How many? But look again.
I love this guy.
But here's why. I wouldn't be here if I wanted to duck. Right? This is not a comfort zone. All right. Here's the point. Journalists should not be in the business of taking positions. okay? They shouldn't be because, but if you want to do full transparency, do full transparency. Okay, fine. And now, after I give this answer, people will say, you'll never be fair to Ukraine again. No, I don't think they should give them the money. Why? No, don't clap. Don't clap. Don't clap. Don't clap. Don't clap.
We're clapping because you gave us
not,
yes or no.
But here's the thing. You shouldn't want journalists to say, hey, where are you on this issue? I'm telling you.
No, you should. I actually disagree with this. I'm radically transformed on this. I am tired of people pretending that they don't have biases, okay? I actually want to know what you think and what you believe, because trying to sell it to me as a neutral narrative, like, I am very honest about my biases up front. I will tell people what I think. And that makes it much more honest for us to assess why it is you are telling us something in a certain way. It's the pretend, we're not biased at CNN.
But it's slippery because then people start trying to persuade you of their position.
It's not persuading. This is what I think, and let me tell you this is the reason why I think it.
Okay.
Now you can go and listen to what he thinks and why he thinks it, and you can compare.
Fine. I don't agree, but I'll play it your way.
The journalists are not neutral.
No human being is neutral, meaning objective, meaning 50-50 on anything. Everybody's got feelings. It's about fairness. The standard is always fairness.
Fairness is allowing people to hear 100%. All the perspectives. That's it.
100%. 100%. But I think that there's a slippery slope when your journalists get into telling you why they think what they think. I think it should be about the audience and the players and that, and not them as much. But fine. Why do I say no? Not for your reasons. I say no because I believe we do not have the transparency and we do not have the efficiency in government of telling you why they're doing what they're doing and why it makes sense.
Can I simplify? This is my reason why.
I said no.
Okay.
That's pretty simple.
I get, but
the why matters.
Your reasoning was, so number one is, I want to know where the money is going and how it's going to be spent.
Yes.
I want to know that as a capitalist 100%, but there's a reason for me above that. And it's actually a very simple reason, okay? Here's what it is. Say I'm your neighbor. And literally, where you live, I live right next to you. So I'm a neighbor, okay? And I live in your community, okay? And I come to you and I say, hey, Chris, man, I'm getting robbed. This is the third time they stole the bikes from the kids. And I need $150,000 to build this fence. So that stops happening. I need another $50,000 to build this camera. Brother, you know, if you can give me that $200,000, that'd be fantastic. Now, your wife is coming to you and saying, babe, we don't have a fence here. And not only did they take the 4 bikes that we have, they took the 3 fishing rods and they broke into the 2 cars and they stole the system out of the 2 cars. We have to build a fence here.
They took the fishing rods?
They did.
Kill all of them.
That's it, right? That's what we got to do.
Right.
So that's how we have to paint the picture.
There we go.
But hear me out. Let me explain this to you. So imagine, like, your wife is saying this to you, okay? And says, babe, we need to spend $300,000 to build this wall and put up some cameras because this cannot happen. And we need to go and tell the community, put a security there so they watch this. We need to spend this money. And you say, no. We have to take care of the neighbor's border first.
Oh, it gets better. Then you turn to your wife and you say, you're a racist. You're a sexist.
Yeah, because
you're a homophobe.
Iranian.
Why do you want to take care of your children?
See, that's the part for me where, you know, as much as we talk analysis, for me it's, hey, how much money do you want for Ukraine? $60 billion. No problem. The day you guys build the wall, let's have the conversation. Go ahead and do it. You want to do this? Go ahead, let's do it. $20 billion, put the account, here's where it's going to go. Great. Hey, you want $60 billion? No problem. The day we get, you're finally doing your accounting and you're showing us exactly how the money's been. The day you want it, then you do it. And by the way, this works in companies. Guy comes up to me yesterday. I don't even know if he's in the room or not. He knows who he is. He's probably watching this from wherever he's at. He says, well, I think I can do this, that. I said, really? Yeah. I said, fantastic. I'm glad you believe that. This is great. But tell me what's the biggest victory you've had since you've been here? I said, what are you talking about? I did this, I did that. I said, no. That's part of your job description, why we pay you to do that. That's not above and beyond. That's your job description. You're supposed to do that. I said, tell me something you've done that you've gone above and beyond where everybody's going to say that's a victory. He says, well, I don't know. I said, no, it's called you don't have any. I said, why don't you go do that, and I'm going to greenlit the budget for you, and we can do X, Y, Z. You'll do that? Yes. Okay, go. Go show me some results. We're going like this. I need some money. Let me look at your resume. You've been fired 92 times. For sure, here's money for you, you know? Let me see your resume. Well, we already spent and wasted $2.2 trillion. What a great job wasting money. Here's another $60 billion for you. To me, in no way does that make any sense, and nothing about what I said seems like I need analysis, and it's just logic. This doesn't make sense. The answer is no. Fix the border, fix America, fix our issues, then let's go fix Ukraine. Till then, Ukraine is not in my top 50 list of priorities in my life as an American. That's me. That's me. That's how I process it.
I think there's an argument for the priority to be higher, certainly among the leadership, but there's a fundamental flaw in the analysis that does matter, which is it's not a business. And if you
it's the largest corporation in the world.
But it doesn't get run as a business.
It doesn't get run as a business.
Not at all. Not even close.
I agree.
They're not even concerned with their capital requirements. There is no accountability. It's not even their money. It's not even their investors' money. They're playing with house money. That's why they never know the numbers. And the game has convinced you that it's not your money. So are they going to invest in Ukraine? Yes. Why? Because they think it's good for them. Because they think it's the right thing for them to do for them. That's why Johnson was doing this. And he lives by the good book, right? What about Hawaii? So Hawaii goes through this horrible situation that we all watched on TV, right? The governor was on TV the other day. Did you see him? Nope. You know why? Because he was on News Nation. That's why. You guys are all watching Fox or whatever you're watching. So he came on again because people have forgotten him. This is America, right? This is Hawaii, right? And he says, you guys said that you'd be here for us. I can't get housing for any of my people because they're all short-term rentals and it's a vacation market and people are priced out and I'm having to pay this money and we're going broke and nobody will help us. He couldn't even get on TV. You see, that's the game. It's about where your efforts are concentrated in that moment.
You know what excites me about that, buddy?
So they're going to get their money because the Republicans and the Democrats think it's in their interest to give it.
Here's what excites me about that, Sexy. I got to tell you this. I love the fact that cable's going to be dead in 10 years. Yeah. I love it. I love the fact that cable's going to be dead in 5 to 10 years. They got 5 to 10 years to figure this thing out, okay? They're being saved by 3 things: older community, okay, boomers, sports, and big pharma. That's it, those 3 things. And one by one, when these things go away, cable's going to be poof, gone. And by the way, these guys, if we were to do a survey to see what they watch, most of these guys probably consume their content from podcasts and independent. How many guys consume your content from independent? So there is a waking up of people who are no longer like going to cable. They're like, let me see what Candace has got to say. Let me see what Tim's got to say. Let me see what Tucker's got to say. Let me see what Joe's got to say. Let me see what Russell's got to say. Let me see what these guys got to say. And they're kind of like saying, dude, why doesn't the other guy say it? Because he can, because he's being funded by Big Pharma. And I never thought about it that way before. Do these guys? No, they're just getting it off of Patreon. No shit. Yeah, so they don't have to lie to me? No. That's kind of cool, and they're getting it AdSense, and they're making money this way. That's the hard way of doing it? Yes. I'm going to listen to these guys. Chris, the game is changing dramatically where the wake-up call is coming so soon, and it's going to be freaking awesome. It's going to be so awesome, it's not even funny. But let's go on the topic that we're talking about right now. Let's go on the topic that we're talking about right now, because I like this. So, since we're on it, establishment, non-establishment, okay? When you were on the first time or the second time, and the more and more you and I speak, I would bring this up. Candace, I'm going to go to you first, and then from there I'll come to Chris. One of the things I would tell you about is the establishment, non-establishment. It's like, who is the establishment? Who is the non-establishment? Who is this? Who is that? I'm like, the establishment is the same people that told us your brother was going to be the best president in the world because he was better than Trump in New York. And every day we watched him on the screen and he would give PowerPoints. How many of you guys remember when he was on Andrew Cuomo? Every day for months we'd watch him and boom. We're like, you know what? I don't agree with his policies. I don't agree with what he does. I actually like the fact that he's got the audacity to talk to me on a daily basis. I respect it. Game. And Democrats said, here's the next guy. Behind closed doors, he's not a gamer. What do they do? Destroy him, get rid of him, get out of here. You're not listening to Chuck Schumer, Pelosi, all these guys. Establishment, you're out, okay? Then we saw what happened with you. Then we saw what happened with, now they're thinking about letting go of Anderson Cooper, Jake Tapper, and Chris Wallace. Who the hell do they have left after that? I don't know what's going to be happening over there. And I know you support them. You're supposed to. We don't have a lawsuit going on that's pending. You do, so we understand what positions you can and can't take. We're not going to impose. But for me, this concept of establishment versus non-establishment, the more and more I read into it, the more and more I study about it historically, how it's been done, the more it becomes evident that that exists, and they have a chokehold on so many of these guys that you're looking at their faces. He's not talking to me. He's talking on behalf of somebody else. Candace, how much of the concept of establishment and non-establishment do you give credibility to?
100% credibility to the idea that there's an establishment. And you know it's the establishment when first and foremost, they're all saying the exact same thing. Even in the face of overwhelming evidence, they don't break from the narrative, right? They just don't break from the absurd things that are coming out of their mouths. And they just keep pretending that it's real. And they're clearly lying. They know that we know that they're lying. They still keep lying despite the fact that everybody knows that they're lying. And so you understand that they're taking money from somebody that controls what they can say. And I'm glad that you brought up Big Pharma. I mean, why do we have more Big Pharma lobbyists in D.C. than we have politicians? That makes no sense. Lobbying should be illegal, right? If you're buying out the politicians that we are electing and sending to D.C., that's what's happening. And you have the huge lobbies that are in D.C. APAC, huge lobby that's in D.C. Big Pharma, Pfizer, they're all in there buying out our politicians. And then you have the media, and I'm glad you brought up the fact that they're telling you, you're all going to die, wear a mask, 6 feet social distance. It got almost medieval. I was like, next they're going to be like, put leeches on your body. Weird rituals, everyone walking around slowly. Don't ever forget to pause and remember COVID, because that right there, honestly, if you want to talk about a psychological analysis of the media and what they were doing, using fear to compel people to accept things, and how journalists were not speaking up on behalf of the people who were having their freedoms stripped, that was when you saw the establishment bare bones, condemning you for wanting to see your family members, right? Keeping a ticker live. It made entirely no sense. CNN, a live ticker every 5 seconds. I'm like, oh, that's amazing. What are you contacting all the morgues and somehow you're getting live? And that was really an experiment with how much power the establishment has that rules over you. And I think it's a huge contributor to the reason that we're seeing the collapse in the mainstream media, because people are not going to forget that. I think the vibes are different. The frequencies are different. The lies are just not hitting the same. The propaganda is not landing the same. The people have never been more alive and more awake and more disturbed by what we have allowed to rule over us over the last decades. And by the way, I want the takeaway to be here that you should be encouraged. You should wake up like I wake up every morning, feeling optimistic about the future, because we are watching the last squeals of a dying animal when it comes to the establishment.
I'd like it to be true. I'd like it to be true. When I got into the news business over 20 years ago, they said nightly news is dead. Still has the biggest audiences of any media.
20 years ago, they said that?
Yeah, nightly news is dead. You remember that stuff, Tom, where they were like, it's over.
Why are you looking at Tom? Tom's in his late 30s, early 40s.
Because he's a researcher. He's a researcher.
Every time they take shots, I don't appreciate them coming up your age, Tom.
He's a researcher.
I did not hear Abe Lincoln say that. I was in the bathroom.
I would like it, look, I'd like it to be true. I just see more players. I see the same game. And I think there are just more ways to get paid now with cottage industries of where you play to the fringe. The problem is that the fringe dominates the dialogue. You have what they call a magnified minority. You have the parties are ruled by it. You see it in the primary process. What is the antidote to that? Ranked choice voting, open primaries, more parties, taking away the power from the parties. But none of these things really happen in the way that they need to. Why? Because those are the people in control. My point about Bobby Kennedy, people are mad at him. He's going to disrupt the race. Well, when Ross Perot did what he did, the GOP rethought things after that. And they started very much focusing on the state level and changing state legislatures and governorships so that they could have a hand in where the dynamic really begins, which is as close to the local level as you can get. So maybe if Bobby stays in the race and the president loses and they blame it on Bobby, okay, but maybe there'll be a lesson for the Democrats as there were for the Republicans after the Perot race and that had Bill Clinton wind up beating Bush. Maybe they'll do the same kind of thing and rethink what they're about and where they're about. Very often, bad events can be catalysts for positive events. I'm fine with the fact that, I mean, of course these guys are going to raise their hands. They're here in your house. They have already recognized that there's another way for them to get information and perspective. Good for you. You are well ahead of the curve. You are well ahead of the curve. I don't know how long it takes, but I do believe that you're targeting the right thing. Is it new? No, but things move in cycles in our cultural dynamic. And establishment has always been a boogeyman, right? Sometimes now it's manifests as deep state, different things. But instead of establishment, non-establishment, I think it's establishment versus disruption. Being a disruptor is a commodity. Trump is a phenomenal disruptor. He understands the concept, and he understood early on, because a lot of people, I'm sure, were telling, in fact, I know, were telling him, I don't know, Donald, I don't know that you're going to be able to position yourself as an outsider. I mean, you kind of check every box of an insider. And he was like, it's all about how I think, and it's about what I say, and it's about what I connect with. And he was right. And there is good news in that. I would love to wake up every morning optimistic, but then I look in the mirror and I'm still me. And then I'm like, But I do believe that the more people become of the mindset of wanting things to be different, the better things will become. If it winds up changing the mode of media, great. I don't have the excuse of saying that I've ever had an advertiser control what I say. I wish. I have no excuse. Everything that I say and think is because that's what I think I should say. I've never had an advertiser pressure me. I haven't. I would love to tell you that. I would love to say it was a function of groupthink at CNN, and now I'm free of it. It's just not true. Is it true? Can there be groupthink? Can there be? Yeah, I think you see that playing out. It just hasn't been my personal experience. The reason I went to News Nation is that the guy who owns it told me, I will never have anything to do with what you say on television. If you perform, great. If you don't, not great. But how you do it is up to you. And Perry has kept that word. And I've never had that happen before. In fact, I would actually like more input from the guys around me at News Nation, but they have a very strict understanding of why they're doing what they're doing, which they believe is an antidote to what they see in the rest of the media. So fine.
So a couple things there on Tom. Do you have any thoughts on what Chris just said?
Yeah, three of them really fast. I agree with Candace. There absolutely is an establishment, and it absolutely is in lockstep, and it's a uniparty, and it's ripping us off from both sides. The second point is I just agree with Chris a little bit on something. CNN is not just a poorly run business. It is a dying sector. That's why they are laying off. That's why they are taking advantage of talent controversies to change their operating budget by getting salaries off the rolls. And I believe in the citizen. My third point, I believe in the citizen. In San Francisco, on the special election, Proposition E and F passed, and maybe we didn't hear it all the way here in South Florida.
This is very big.
Proposition E is refund the police. As in, give them, what's a refund? You get your money back. Well, the police are being funded to do more policing and keep the people safe. Proposition E passed. This is San Francisco because the people had enough. The voters had, the citizens. And then they passed Proposition F, that if you want welfare, piss in the cup and take a drug test, or you don't get your welfare. And so the citizens are striking back. And I believe in that. So I agree with Candace. I think there's a shift. There's only 24 hours in a day. So people are not watching CNN. They're watching podcasts. There's only 24 hours in a day. That's where the ratings are. And the people have had enough. That's why they're listening to podcasts. That's why they're passing Proposition E and F.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and by the way, Rob, do you have the chart that shows, Brandon, I think you have this, that shows how much we consume with OTT, with YouTube, with cable, and how it's been declining over the last 10, 15, 20 years. And Chris, I know you're saying they said 20 years ago, late night news is a thing of a past and all this stuff.
Evening news, yeah.
That's not what I'm saying. No. It's how we consume it, in what platform. Yeah. Cable TV is a thing of the past. Cable is going away. And the beautiful thing about capitalism is if I can sit here and watch a podcast right now going on. I can go on YouTube, I can go on Spotify, I can watch Joe, I can watch anybody I want here on the podcast, live, comment, do all that stuff. And, you know, the person's talking, and if they're doing a sponsorship with somebody, great, I like it, I don't like it. That gives me the edge. But this is the one, Rob, if you can pull this up, on what happened with cable and what's been going on with it. This is, if you can pull up this chart, it shows Nielsen, the difference between broadcast, streaming, other, and cable, and what companies are increasing, what companies are decreasing. Are you guys able to pull this up, Rob? Let's see if everybody say
the
thank
establishment
you. Can
won't
give
let
Rob
you pull
a
it
quick
up.
Shout out. These guys do a great job here. Come on, Rob. Okay, check this out. If you have it up, there you go. Zoom in a little bit. That's July of 22. The baby blue on the bottom left is 34.4%. It's cable. Okay, that's just a year prior to that. And if you look at streaming, 34.8, other 9.2, broadcast 21.6, and you don't see YouTube on the other side because it's dark. YouTube on that chart is 7.3%. Now, if you go to the next chart, go to the other one that you have that goes to 2023, Rob, because you just showed 22. Do you have the 23 or no?
You're putting a lot of pressure on him, by the way.
The 23, watch what happened. Cable, just in 1 year, went from 34.4 to 29.6 in 1 year. What's 5 on 34? 5 on 34 is 15%.
Yeah.
In 1 year, it dropped 15%. If you go back and look at this 10 years, it's a whole different story. But going back to the establishment, non-establishment side, you know, to think that does not exist today, I think it's a little bit naive for us to think it doesn't exist. And more we think that way, the more we'll be controlled. And I think there's a lot of that going on right now. We ought to stay skeptical on what decisions are being made behind closed doors. When I sit there and I think about two families, right? I think about Kennedy's and I think about Trump, those two last names. They didn't like what Kennedy was going to do. And he was going after CIA. He was going after the Fed. We saw what they did to him, to his brother, to the entire family pretty much. Hey, what do you mean you're not? And then they're like, dude, you're a Democrat, non-establishment. Lyndon Johnson, Democrat, establishment. Dude, less of you, boom, more of you. How wonderful and easy it is to deal with a Lyndon Johnson. You're annoying, Kennedys. Let's get rid of these guys. Trump versus take any of these big Republican last names right now. Who is this guy? Dude, you are super difficult to work with. You don't listen to anybody. Let's get these guys. Yeah. Nikki Haley, what a wonderful, fantastic candidate she is. And what districts does she win? What states does she win? You ready? Vermont. Bernie Sanders, the only man wearing a mask in the State of the Union last night. And DC. Okay, those are the two places she wins. She's a Democrat. So they love that because she can be controlled. They can't stand this guy because he can't be controlled. So this is the part that if we sit here and we're kind of like massaging this and thinking it's not really happening, all of a sudden we can wake up 5-10 years from now saying, hey, holy moly, look what kind of control they got over us. I'm not, and this is coming from a guy that lived in Iran for 10 years, escaped, went to Germany a couple years, and finally made it here, and I'm naturally paranoid against that, and unfortunately, that's not going to get out of me. My son is sitting over there, Tico. He's 12 years old. Now, he may be a different story because he's born here. 4 kids born in 3 different states.
Don't sleep on your dad and your wife being over there.
No. My dad, I've been trying to challenge my dad to run for office. He keeps saying no. He has no interest right now at 81 years old. Anyways, let's go to the next topic.
He's a little young.
Yeah, he is. Let's go to the next topic. Border. Let's talk about the border. Rob, can you do me a favor and play the clip if you could? So I don't know if you guys watched who watched Tucker's State of the Union reaction last night, if you did. Yeah. By the way, shout out to him on Twitter. He had 1.5 million people watching his live on Twitter last night at 11 o'clock. 1.5 million people. That tells you who has the power today with media. It's not cable anymore. It's independent content creators. But Tucker's talking about the State of the Union, and he shows one clip. And this is a clip, I believe, Rob, it's the Attorney General, Candace, please correct me if I'm not saying, I think it's the Attorney General from Alabama, Southern Alabama, that's thinking about, what they think they need to be doing with, the election. We'll go from the election and we'll go to the border part. He's what they feel they need to be doing with elections. Have you seen this clip or no?
I think it's Merrick Garland speaking in Alabama. Is that the clip?
Yeah, it's in Alabama. Attorney General speaking in Alabama about what we need to do with voting. Watch this clip here. Go ahead, Rob.
The right to vote is still under attack. And that is why the Justice Department is fighting back. That is why one of the first things I did when I came into office was to double the size of the voting section of the Civil Rights Division. That is why we are challenging efforts by states and jurisdictions to implement discriminatory, burdensome, and unnecessary restrictions on access to the ballot, including those related to mail-in voting, the use of drop boxes, and voter ID requirements. That is why we are working to block the adoption of discriminatory redistricting plans that dilute the vote of black voters and other voters of color.
Candace, how do you, according to Forbes, as the voice for the black conservative.
Yes, speak for all black
people.
Can
you please?
I'm about to speak for black liberals too. No, actually, this has been remarkable and something that I'm so happy, and I'm going to turn what he said into a positive because, when I first started out, I got no love from black liberals. They were very much still existing under the spell, as I call it, of not the Democrats, Lyndon Baines Johnson, who was an avowed racist and said, I'll have those N-words voting Democrat for the next 200 years. Who essentially broke down the black family via the Great Society Act. It was Machiavellian, it was evil. The government targeted black Americans, and the result of that was black Americans and the next generation not being able to understand that every ill that has followed fatherless homes is, the high incarceration rate, everything that's happening. But anyways, there's been a remarkable shift this year. And I have a very large black audience. I'm finally getting some plays in black media. If we're even calling it black media, it's owned by people, honestly, who I think hate black people. But what I will say is that you are starting to see within these same communities that used to play well in, that the citizens are standing up and saying, hey, these illegal immigrants are not good for us. It's harming us. And I've made this point for years. The first people that are going to suffer because of the influx of illegal migrants is going to be black Americans, obviously. It's going to be the black Americans who are now seeing that the rot exists in their community. They are going to, unfortunately, it's black Americans that live in those impoverished cities, Latinos, black Americans that live in those impoverished cities that are getting these influx of migrants and seeing the spike of crime in those inner cities. And it's them that they're competing with. When you're talking about the welfare benefits, and by the way, I think welfare should be abolished, but I won't get into that. People aren't ready to have that discussion yet. But these competition where people are saying we're going to give more handouts and more handouts to illegal migrants who are now getting debit cards, unchecked debit cards in New York City. Did you see this? This is miraculous. It's unbelievable.
53 million?
Yes, because they complained about the food that they were getting, so they wanted their own debit cards. And so I'm okay with that sort of rhetoric, as infuriating as it is because I think that it actually contributes to the awakening that we're seeing happening all across America, where you're telling people not to believe their own eyes, not to believe their own suffering, not to believe their own eyes when the gas pump and the groceries have gotten more expensive, and you continue to lie to them. So we need Merrick Garland to forever be in front of a mic spewing lies and racial rhetoric because it isn't landing, and like I said, it will just contribute further to the awakening that's happening right now in America.
I love how grateful you are for him, though. That level of gratitude is incredible.
I never want them censored. I always want to hand them a mic. Because when you're getting to the point that we're so, you're trying to sell to us now that men can be women, right? Let's just give it a mic. Let's give it a mic. If those are your true ideas, I want to sit down with you and have a discussion because people know stupid when they hear it.
And it doesn't take long, by the way.
Doesn't take long.
When you give the mic, go. 30 minutes into, you're like, oh, you don't make a lot of sense on what you're saying.
Right.
Let me ask you this, Candace. Why do you think liberals and the left have such lack of respect for the African American vote, where they don't believe African Americans are capable of getting an ID, or Hispanics? Why do they think Hispanics and African Americans are not smart enough to go get an ID? Why do they look so down at those communities, minorities?
They know that black Americans are smart enough to get an ID. They say these things to justify what they're actually trying to do, which is just to shatter the integrity of our elections, right? And so they insult black Americans in the process. They are, by the way, getting very good, if we want to talk about what they are doing, is making sure that black Americans can't read. 70% illiteracy rate. These, you want to talk about prisons? The public school systems are becoming prison pipelines, right? And the reason why they want black Americans and all Americans illiterate, by the way, remove black Americans, the illiteracy rate is 40% right now nationwide, which is why the Department of Education should be abolished, because the Department of Education is making people stupid intentionally. They want you to be stupid, they want you to be illiterate, because then whatever we tell you will be true, right? Whatever we tell you will have to be true, because you can't go research and read and understand the history of our lives. And so it's all a part of it. So they know that black Americans are, because they have systemically made black American students more stupid via their public education system, are more likely to be emotional. It is the oldest trick in the book, by the way, when you go back to slave codes in this country. What was that #1 slave code? You could not teach a slave how to read. It was so crucial to maintaining the plantation that even if you were a white person and you were caught teaching a slave how to read, you were punished, right? And there's a reason for that, because you have to be ignorant to maintain slavery. You need the slaves to be ignorant. And so don't discount that. Everyone should be paying attention to what's happening in the public schools. They want to make everybody ignorant so that we keep saying yes to this system of what it is economic slavery, right? You are going to work every single day, and they are taking your money to fulfill their imperialistic efforts overseas and laundering it through other corrupt countries and giving it back to themselves. We are right back again in America in a system of slavery. And it seems different because they've modernized it and they've updated it and they've got funny tech and they've got TikTok and Instagram and materialism to keep you distracted, but do not miss the point. And so that's a very long-winded way for me to tell you that everything that's happening right now is by design. It is Machiavellian. It is evil. But fear not, people, because, as I say, I wake up every day skipping and singing and humming, because they know they are losing power, and that is why they are getting more radical, more incensed, and more angry in their rhetoric.
Yeah, I love that. You know, for me, absolutely. You know, I never liked it when our relatives looked at us, the Bedavids, because my parents got a divorce and my dad worked at a 99-cent store, and they would say, "Okay, you know, so, get this okay stuff away. I don't even want you to feel sorry for me. It's disgusting for a human being to want others to feel sorry for them. It's actually not a very attractive quality. It's a very unattractive quality. Sometimes we think we're still 7 years old and mommy comes and says, would you like some soup? And do this kind of stuff, and we feel like we want that. But you know, while you're saying that, this guy has no clue I'm about to do this to him. He's going to love this because he's going to get God knows how many eyeballs here right now with his business. So voting. Chris, you're very smart. We can fix this. Can you pull up the first stat real quick for me when it comes down to smartphones? If you can pull that up, Rob. Do you know which one I'm talking about? The Pew Research that you guys just sent me? Pull this one up. Check this out, folks. So smartphones, zoom in a little bit. So let's first read at the top what it says. It says black and Hispanic adults in the U.S. are less likely than white adults to have a traditional computer or home broadband. Okay, fine. No problem. This is from 2021, 2 years ago. However, if you don't have home broadband or traditional computer, how many of us would agree that this is officially our new home broadband and computer? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Before I show you the stat, how many more whites do you think have access to smartphones than blacks and Hispanics? What's the percentage? If you were to say, what do you think the number is? 15% more, 3% more, 10% more, 20% more? What do you think it is?
I would say
Whatever the margin of error is.
All right, so can you pull this up, please?
We might have more.
Please pull this up. This is so interesting. This is Pew Research, smartphone, zoom in. Okay, first let's identify the dark blue is whites, the light blue is blacks, and the lightest blue is Hispanics. Hispanics have the same access to the smartphones as whites do, and blacks are only 2% less. This guy yesterday sends me this technology that he has, and he wants us to be part of his company. So I'm giving him free advertisement. You know, this would be a $100,000 sponsorship deal, but I'm going to show it to the world and see how many of you guys can see a technology like this being available to us today to vote. Rob, if you can play that clip, I sent this to Tom yesterday.
NFID.
Watch this.
The most disruptive and game-changing advancement ever witnessed in international and cross-border payment verification. Shockingly, nothing exists that allows individuals to prove account ownership when transacting online until now. NFID stands as a hyper-secure yet user-friendly tool that creates trust across all digital transactions and touchpoints. Once logged into an NFID profile by using multi-factor, biometric, and blockchain-backed verification, anyone can simply copy and paste a crypto wallet address or bank account, including IBAN or SWIFT codes, and it allows us to instantly verify the rightful account owner. If the intended recipient also holds a KYC-approved NFID profile, we can definitely confirm that we are transacting with the rightful person or entity from anywhere in the world. International and cross-border payments are no longer based on blind trust and guesswork. If it's not verified by NFID, it's not worth the risk. Trust but verify.
By the way, this podcast is not sponsored by these guys. He has no clue I'm showing this. I saw this, and I'm wondering if Hispanics have access to smartphones as much as whites do, if blacks have access to smartphones as much as whites do, by 2%, why do we have a hard time? Maybe we start voting with maybe not IDs. You come in with your ID, and I kind of show my face, and I go like this, and if we can do that, yep. Nope, this is not Patrick. This is not him. Yeah, okay, good. This is him. We can verify this. Why are we so worried about finding systems to verify? Let me give you data, and then I'm going to come to my friend here, Chris. Ready? So 16 out of 50 states in America do not require an ID to vote. Those 16 out of 50 states, Rob, if you can pull this up, those 16 out of 50 states have 212 of the electoral votes out of the 538. Let me say it again. The 16 out of 50 states, you have no need to go like this and walk in when you're voting to say, hey, can you please pull out your ID and do one of these things? Nope, you don't have to do it. They're not asking for your ID. They could care less about your ID. 212. Now watch this. 11 out of 50 states don't require a photo ID. You can just give an ID, but no photo. Did you guys understand me so far? Those 11 out of 50 states that don't require a photo ID to vote have 69 electoral votes out of the 538. 69 plus 212, it's a sweep forever for the left. Just so you know this. This is not me telling you this. This is the government telling you this, what our guidelines are by states today. And the rest, 23 out of 50 states, only 23, less than 50% of our states actually require to go like this. How pathetic is that, Chris, to have something like that? You don't have to be a left, right, or a center person to say that doesn't make sense. What are your thoughts on this, the way we're voting today?
There's a lot that goes to it. You know, you have half the representation of the U.S. government represents 1/3 of the population. Why? Because of how we do it with the Senate and redistricting rules and stuff like that. So there's a fundamental imbalance. Voter ID, here are the two arguments, and you can assess them how you want. Is it that, I forget how it was explained earlier, but I don't know that it's that the government, whatever that means, if you want to ascribe it all to one groupthink, doesn't trust blacks or think minorities are capable of or whatever. But the argument is that culturally, socioeconomically, as you go down in terms of the poverty level, as poverty becomes more important, there's less connection with government. There's less percentage of people who want to interface with government and who have identification. So the argument is, if you say you need an ID to vote, you will have an unfair bias against those strata of society that don't tend to get IDs and don't want to deal with government.
Okay, but I just have to...
I'm just saying that is the argument.
No, it's not an argument to lie, okay? Because
but
it's
that
not
is
about,
the
you
argument.
don't get an ID because you want to engage with government. You get an ID because you want to drive. You get an ID because you're 19
Right.
and you, you're 21 and you want to have your first drink. You get an ID because you quite literally need an ID to do so many things in
That's
society.
true.
So forget it. You wouldn't say that people that are in a lower socioeconomic class are never drinking, are never driving, are never doing all of the other things that are required, never seeing a movie, like, that's above PG-16. You need an ID to do so much in life. So you're focusing, this is the lie. You're saying, well, they don't tend to vote. That might be true. That might definitely be true.
No, they don't tend to have IDs.
That's not why they're getting an ID. That's not why they're getting an ID. So
I understand.
They're just lying.
I understand. I don't think it's a lie. It could be wrong. It could be a false assumption.
If it's wrong, then it's a lie. If you keep saying it, if it's wrong and you keep saying it, it becomes a lie, right?
No, that's only
There's no black people that are not getting their IDs. I came from a low socioeconomic background. I got my driver's license when I was 16 years old because I wanted to drive and pick up my boyfriend.
I get it. And
those are the reasons people get IDs. That's simple. I love you too.
I get it. What I'm saying is, two things can be true at once. The argument is exactly what I'm saying it is, okay? The reason the big states don't have it is because of this argument, that they say that there is a disproportionate impact on people from lower socioeconomic rungs that do not get it. One, we do know for a fact that poor people that live in more populated areas drive at a much lower rate than other people, so maybe they don't have the license. That's the argument. I'm not saying you have to value the argument. The other argument is we need IDs for everything that we do. Why would we do this? The argument now to your question, which is why don't we do it online? Okay, so I ran with this idea. Like 7 years ago, when we came out of the hanging Chad thing that allowed me to spend a great amount of my time in your state, in Jacksonville specifically, about the hanging Chads, the 2000 election and all, I was like, wow, this is such a stupid system. Why don't we just do this the way everything in my life is on here? Pay my mortgage, my money doesn't exist. Right? I mean, I don't have, I'm not my grandparents. I don't have 50 Savarin cans, which was an instant coffee, in my basement that has my savings in it. I don't put money under my mattress. I don't even know where it is. And I'm okay with that. But we can't vote. And I got crushed by all of these security and intelligence people saying, oh, the fraud that would happen, the chance of fraud. And I said, but we have like the easiest system to beat in the world. The stat they hit me with was the voter ID states do not have better rates, or let's say lower rates of voter fraud than the states without ID. So it doesn't really make a difference.
That is the fraud. that is
but I'm saying that's what I'm saying. I ran with this. I believe in this. I believe that voting should be as easy and immediate as possible. I think that voting should not be one day. I think that voting, if it is going to be on that one day should be a vacation day for everybody in America so that they can go out and vote. I believe in early voting. I believe in online voting. I believe that we should have as many people voting as possible so we make it as easy as possible. Now, I'm going to tell you something, and you're not going to like it, but that's not my problem. It is not even this issue. It's not both sides of the aisle. The right, until voter ID, has consistently been against anything that would increase who votes.
Okay,
I think there are reasons for that. But I am in favor of this.
Can I ask you a yes or no?
Yes or no?
Ready? Can we play that game again?
Yes.
Should
I get it right?
Americans be required to have ID to vote? Chris, yes or no?
No. And I'll tell you why.
Wow.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Until I see fraud rates that go along with the distinction, I don't believe that you make a simple pitch. Then my answer is no. And my answer is no because I don't believe I don't believe you want the government having even more control over who can vote and who can't.
Okay, so that's fine. I'm glad you're being honest. I just want to say, if you are a black or Hispanic American, please somebody find me the black or Hispanic American who does not work, because you need an ID to get a W-T form, get set up, they ask you for your ID, who does not vote, who does not drink, who does not drive or drive somebody else's car. This person does not exist. It does not travel. You can't get on a plane without it. This person does not exist, okay? So it is the lie that they tell so that they can rig our elections by having a bunch of people who are not Americans coming in and voting. And by the way, everybody knows that, okay?
How can you know what we've never been shown? Where is the fraud? Where are the fake votes?
The idea that any person will get up and say to you that they do not believe that you should have an ID to vote. I'm just gonna I'm not even going to characterize what you just said.
But you backed it up by saying that we know that all these people vote who aren't supposed to. Where's the proof of that?
We understand the voting rolls. There's dead people on the voting rolls, and this has been proven
every time they measure this with billions and billions of vote checks. And anybody here or Magic Rob, go up and find different for me on the internet. They look and they see that the amount of fraud in elections is de minimis, which is beyond a level of action. We just went through this.
Okay, let me ask the question a different way.
Chris,
let me ask.
Hang on.
Let me ask a question a different way. Let me ask a question a different way. Chris, here's a question. You and I run a nightclub.
Yes.
Okay, it's 21 and over.
Need an ID.
Why?
Because otherwise you can't tell whether they're over 21. And they're worried about the liability.
What about you can't tell whether they're American?
Show me proof.
Listen,
Show me proof.
I get the arguments. I get
that's
what the
not.
arguments
This is no, Chris. This to me is more.
Yes.
No, it's common sense. It's for me to. Okay.
So why do you think that they don't do it again? Because you think, so you agree with Candace that the reason they don't require ID is because they want a lot of illegal votes and to manipulate the system.
A lot of
all the watchdogs from the right that follow this issue have just never been able to prove it?
Well, you're racist if you say something.
Of everything Candace said about IDs was for me to be able to get a driver's license, for me to be able to get for me to be able to do this, for me to be able to do that.
I agree.
For me, it's a different reason on why you need a driver. It's for me to know who the hell you are. It's very different.
I totally get it.
I'm not interested in what, all that stuff that I get to do selfishly because I need the ID to do that. No. When you came in here right now, we have friends we respect a lot and we respect our guests. Did you guys all come through a metal detective? Yes or no? Do you know how many cops and sheriff are around here right now? You know how much we spend on security right now to make sure they're safe and nobody can come in here where you're safe as well? Now, we're doing our part. We invest the resources there. Sheriff is very good with us. Cops are very good with us. But did you guys come in here? Did somebody walk you through, find out, verify, checking who you are, what you're doing? We have to do that. We got to go through that process.
I totally get it.
And by the way, this is not 1/1,000,000th of as important as an election, okay?
I agree.
This is just a podcast and a conversation. So for us to sit there and say, the idea isn't that important, brother, you're a very, very, people from your community and others will hear what you have to say and they may go with that as well. In a country without IDs and without being checked, you're not a country. You're not even a country club. You're not even a village. I don't even know what to call you, but you're definitely not a country.
Again. We're a constitutional republic. That's right. Less than 5% of Americans get their
banana republic. He said banana republic.
It's also, it's not like they're hiding. When Biden comes in, opens the border with Mayorkas the rat doing his dirty work. How many in the past 3 years we've had more illegals come into the country than children being born? Okay.
December of last year was more coming in than children being born.
And this is where it's that window of, I understand that the proof. The proof is when they're coming in, they're wearing Biden shirts and being told, we're voting for him because they're telling us to. Then Biden they admitted.
Then they'll be easy to catch.
Yeah, well, hold on though. Well, those four. But think about this. And then Biden, they admitted last week, he flew in secretly 320,000 illegals across the country, which to me, that's treason.
But it's brilliant, but it's brilliant from the perspective of spread the votes, not just in states you already have control over. You got to spread them in other states that you don't have control over.
And then think about this, though. Candace, you nailed it. And then if you say anything against them, it's you're racist. Mind you, and Nancy Pelosi was crying. She was also pissed off on MSNBC, or it might have been, MSNBC. And at the end, she goes, you know what really pissed me off about Biden?
Rob, can you play that clip?
Yeah, Rob, if you can.
Go ahead and say it until
Magic
he finds
Rob.
it.
I like that. She was
phenomenal name, by the way.
She cried because Biden touched her heart, but then she was furious because he called them illegals. She said these are migrants and they're newcomers. It's obvious they're going to be voting.
Let's watch this. Go ahead, Rob. Magic Rob.
Now, you should have said undocumented, but it's not a big thing, okay? What's the big thing about it?
No, it's a big thing to Vinny.
I actually wasn't even going to ask about that. I was just going to ask more about the moment. But you do think that he should have said undocumented? That wasn't going to be my question.
Well, we usually say undocumented. He said...
And let's just be honest. Because they are, and we all know this, they love power so much. They don't want to lose it. They're willing, look at all the fentanyl, 120,000 dead Americans each year, all right, more than any war that we've combined all these wars. Children sex trafficking, all these votes. It's such an open, it's a supply chain. And Chris, you nailed it. Is it cheating? Or is it that these are the rules? They don't have no voter ID in all these places. The left is just playing the better game. That's what we talked about?
I definitely think there's a game. I definitely think that language and blaming people for being bad if they don't agree is part of the game and really, really effective. It gets used against me on a regular basis. I literally have a monitor of every day whether or not I'm seen as anti-Semitic because I had somebody on who's worried about Gaza, or whether I am pro-Hamas and a terrorist because I'm talking about, what's happening. I get it. This all works very, very well, okay? Pelosi can make whatever point she wants about vocabulary. I don't have any problem not seeing everyone who enters the country illegally the same way. I don't have a problem with that. I do have a problem with the fact that it's not just some brown menace that everybody's being told to be afraid of. You got Russians, you got Chinese, you got a lot of people coming from different countries now in illegally. This is the main.
Sending their best.
This is the main. This is the main. Well, or maybe they are. It took 19 people to bring us to our knees for months in 2001. It doesn't take a lot of people who are motivated to madness to make a difference. But I'll tell you something. The truth is enough. Okay. There is no hidden program. The CBP app was wide open, and you were told about it, and you were told this was going to happen, all right? And it was allowed to go through. They don't fly people in. They allow them to fly themselves in. Now, is that a difference? Yeah, because it's a little bit of a rhetorical difference. It's not Biden paying for the people to come in, but you are going to pay for the hundreds of thousands of people who are in here now that weren't really verified because the system is broken. This is the most important domestic issue of this election. Immigration encompasses the economy, national security, and the #1 killer in our country, which is the most ignored problem.
Can I ask what you were saying when in 2016 when Trump people were saying, build that wall, Were you saying it was the most important issue? Or
absolutely, and I was saying that the wall, we are not a wall away from being safe. Why? Because if you go down to the border, or you just pick up your phone, because all of us have access to the smartphone, and talk to people who do the job at the border, the first thing they ask you for is not physical barriers. Why? Because there's a lot of their problem that doesn't have to do with physical barriers. It has to do with rules. And the number one thing they've been asking me for 18 years to change are the asylum laws, because there is no right to economic asylum. And that the reason less than 10% have successful asylum claims is because they are economic based, and they've been begging for rule changes, and they've been begging for resources to adjudicate. That's what they ask for most, and that's what was in this Senate bill. Was it imperfect? Yes. Should we be able to do better? Yes. Should we be able to do comprehensive? No way. Stop asking for comprehensive border reform. It will never happen.
So, Chris, out of these, let's say in these 4 years, sorry to cut you off, Adam, let's say once this administration is done, the 4 years, and let's just guess, because the numbers are not going to be accurate,
right.
20 million are coming illegally. And we didn't make up the word. It's in the law. It's illegal.
I don't have any problem with your language.
Yeah,
Knock yourself
I love
out.
you. Thank you. Out of that 20 million illegal that were, come on in, come on, how many do you think are going to actually vote for the Democratic Party?
I have no idea.
So,
I have no idea, but I do know this.
You can't have an idea because there's no
is it safe to say a third?
I have no
I
idea. But what I'm saying is, if people come in and they vote illegally, you should be able to catch them.
But some of the state laws don't show ID. If you don't need ID in all the states that he said already, the cheating, that's what I'm saying. The window is so open, you can't tell, but it's obvious what's happening. You know what I'm saying?
Chris, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? You know, like I can't accept. You're not an unintelligent person, okay?
That's a high compliment.
It is. You are not. So I need to just prod this further because I know you're not unintelligent, okay?
Thank you.
I know that
Backhanded, but I'll take it.
No, I'm serious.
Not unintelligent
I'm not
is different than intelligent.
Listen,
but go ahead.
No, I'm being serious because to take this position that you don't think we should have ID while acknowledging the influx of people at the border and pretending that there's some study that shows that there's not actually fraud while also acknowledging that you have no idea because you can't give them ID. You can't give them ID. How can you, if you're saying you can just go in and you can vote, right? And you're saying we know there was no fraud, it defies common sense, right? So what are you defending when you say something like, I do not believe that Americans should have to have ID? What are you actually defending and protecting?
ID to vote. One, do not believe that you're a government remedy away from the problem. Two, I respect the data, and they keep looking at this, keep trying to find that people are voting illegally.
Who specifically? What study? Who did the study
The
to show?
Heritage Foundation, the Cato Institute, places on the right, places on the left, the government. I mean, look, you can say, oh, they're all bought off by Big Pharma or whatever. I'm just saying they study this all the time, trying to catch illegal voting. Catch it. And if you catch it, then make the case. Look, you lock me into a yes/no. I say no because I'm not a fan of it as a remedy. I think there are policy arguments against it.
I don't want it as a remedy. I want it as just a full stop rule that you should have to have an ID to vote. I'm not trying to fix it. That it can't. It's necessarily going to be broken if we do not have a system in which we know.
Where is the proof that there's all this illegal voting?
Well, hold on. If you have to mail in your vote but don't show any ID or any proof.
Look,
they can't ever catch that.
When you go and vote, right? You go there, they open the book in front of you, right? They say, where do you live? You have this little card that they've sent you, right? They see your address. They say, if they see that you're me, they say, who are you voting for, Chris? Which is really great. And then they mark you off in the book, all right? So it's not that you just come in and you do it and you go. Do I think that's the best system? Of course not. Would it be better if you know who everybody is? Yeah, of course. From a safety and security standpoint, fine. Well, then why are you against it? Because three things, really. One, I'm not a big fan of more government involvement in the lives of people. Two, I don't know the proof. I'm just, look,
it's not
again,
more government.
You don't have to, it is the government. It absolutely is the government.
It's not more government because you already have an ID to do everything else.
But these people don't have IDs, and that's the point.
If you said you have to get go out and get a special different from your driver's license ID, that would be asking
Chris,
for more government.
Are you trolling right now?
I think he's trolling me.
Are you, honestly,
no,
if you are, if you're doing this, like, are you trolling or are you being straight up right now?
I can't believe this.
Do I want you guys to play with your position a little bit? Yes. Because I think that you just assume things that can get you into trouble. You are assuming that our system is broken and our elections don't work. That's what you're saying. You're saying that the voting numbers are wrong and that it is rife with fraud, right? And I'm saying none of you can prove that. You just hung on it. You can insult me. Although, if you sign a little waiver that you won't sue and you do it to my face, there'll be a different outcome. What I'm saying is, look, I don't believe the system is broken and it's rife with fraud. And I will tell you something. I've been watching what's been happening very, very closely after the last election. And I have to tell you, it was upsetting how quiet so many people were who say they're concerned about the elections, that when Truth the Vote came forward with their counsel under penalty of losing their licenses in court. And they said, we have no proof of any of the things that we have asserted in open court. And nobody said anything. They just let it go. Okay. Why didn't that bother you?
When everybody gets a mail-in ballot and you have video evidence of people dumping multiple ballots
Why did Truth the Vote say we have no proof?
No. Stop telling me not to believe my own eyes. It's an insult. It is an insult.
Why did they say that?
Listen, I don't care what Truth the Vote said. It is an insult to the American people always to tell them not to believe their own eyes, okay? We saw the video evidence of people going with multiple bags and slowly just inserting more and more ballots that are in there. That's what happens when you mail out a ballot automatically, which is something they want to do in perpetuity in California. I think they've already passed the law. In perpetuity, everyone who, even if you don't ask for it, you're just going to get a mail-in ballot. That allows people to then harbor those ballots and then to dump them off. You can have one person doing all of the votes, okay? And to vote multiple times. You have no idea if that individual ever received their ballot, first and foremost, or who is filling out that ballot on behalf of them. And when you see people on video that are actually doing these things, and then you say, we have no proof, you are doing the thing that the mainstream media always does, which is the reason that the people are now disillusioned, right? They have no interest in the mainstream media more because they know that you use this terminology. We have no proof. We have no proof. We have no proof that it causes myocarditis. We have no proof that it's impacting. We have no proof that masks don't work. Okay? You just have to stop doing it, Chris. Honestly.
I don't see how any of those things go together.
It's the argument not to believe.
Just had all
it's the
this.
argument
Wait, hold on.
not to believe
Hold
your
on.
own eyes.
Listen,
constantly.
you can say
Until
you
we
believe
tell
all
that
your
we
own eyes,
have
but the
proof.
people who gave you the video went into court, could not prove it, wound up showing that the videos don't mean what they were saying they meant
That
in
is not
open
true.
court where they
That
had
is
the
not
chance.
True. The person who dropped that video that was coming out of, just as one example, Fulton County, her name is, she goes by Jackie Daly, I believe is what she goes by, down in Texas, and she is now suing them for the smears and the lies that they said about her because it was completely false. The video that she showed was 100% true, and she is suing a ton of networks.
Just because she's suing doesn't mean she's right.
Well, if she was wrong, they would have arrested her.
No, they wouldn't necessarily have arrested her for saying that she thought she saw something. And there is litigation going on once we get past the drama of who gets to be the prosecutor.
Can I help you out?
No.
Oh, no, I'm not.
I'm enjoying this.
It's just so dishonest.
I'm going to try to help you because I'm actually with my guy Vinny on this, and I'm with the audience, and I'll tell you why. And I'm actually going to.
Because you're scared of the mob.
You think I'm scared? Nobody gets more hate comments than this guy right here, and I love it.
They're messaging right now.
I want all of it. Here's the deal.
Okay, Princess. let's hear it.
You said very poignantly, yeah. I try to tell my kids how to feel. Good luck with it. And then I try to tell my wife, and what you're trying to argue policy-wise. Everyone here is looking at what's going in the border, and they're just like, no.
I agree.
No.
You should be.
I'm not buying this crap.
You should
These
be, and you should vote on it.
people are coming in. They don't have IDs. We were told in 2020 that, if you require ID, it's racist. I own a bar in South Beach, okay? Come on down, guys. You got to be 21. You have to have an ID. If you want to fly, you need an ID. This whole ID is racist is BS. So these people feel this way because they're seeing what's going on. The old Candace, don't believe my lying eyes over here. Whatever the argument is, they're just like, nah, not buying it. But I have a question for Candace. Yes or no?
I always
here we
give
go.
a yes
Candace,
or no, yeah.
My wallet got stolen recently, literally. And I currently don't have an ID. Literally. Can I vote?
You're going to have to figure out how to. You have a passport? You got to figure that out.
I do have a passport.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. If it happens to be that. If it happens to be.
You said that Trump voters are not a monolith. There's individuals.
Correct.
So, and if you go to those states, the 12 states or whatever that don't require ID, they're all blue states. So they're just going to be blue or blue.
We have to govern for the majority.
There are also states that have high populations of minorities.
So what would happen if someone literally loses their ID a few days before the election?
Listen, I am telling you right now.
I'm just asking a question.
This is not helpful, by the way. If your goal was to help me, this is why I said no.
Thank you for your support,
you have to
Adam.
make laws.
Wait, what's Candace saying? Candace, what
go
are you
ahead,
saying?
Candace.
To answer your question, right? You have to make laws that work to make sure that it satisfies the majority. We make rules, not exceptions, right? If we were a country based on exceptions, there would be no rules, right? This is like when people are saying, well, what about in the circumstance if this happens, then you slip and then you fall, and then this law exists, then it's not really my fault. It's like, okay, I get that there can be extenuating circumstances, right? As a rule, you have to have ID to vote. So if you're the person that on election day, you lost your ID, you can't find your passport, it's snowing, 30 inches of snow are on the ground, you and your wife got into a fight, I'm really sorry to hear that, right? I really am. That's life. You're going to have to wait for next election, and maybe that'll inspire you to get a passport and have backup.
Just to be clear, I said that IDs should be mandatory.
Yeah,
so that was
exactly. We cannot
you should
rule
go to
according
sleep
exceptions.
before midnight and not stay out as long as you
Adam.
do and not know where you are on any given night.
PBD, it happened at dinner at 7 p.m., the early bird special in Miami.
For sure, I believe you. 100%.
Why does voting have to be one day?
It should be a national holiday. I do agree with Chris.
I mean, at a minimum. And then you ask the question, well, why isn't it? Because we have lots of national holidays that maybe you don't have to have. And I think it's because we're not a culture politically that encourages people to participate.
Chris, you lost me at no ID to vote.
I know I did. I know I did. That's why I'm not in the position business.
But no. But what I'm saying is like from the perspective of every decision I need to make, we need an ID, TSA, everything.
I get it.
And you're saying the most important decision to be a president and sit across a guy like Putin, that you don't need an ID for that? And the audience gets to make a decision for themselves.
Hold on a second. Your argument is you need an ID to be president of the United States and sit across from Putin?
To vote and decide who gets to be that
There's
person.
a reason that the states that don't require it have the highest percentages of minority voters and minority citizens.
Great strategy on the left.
Yeah, because they're mailing them ballots. The minorities aren't filling them out.
Great strategy on the left.
Yeah, they steal them.
I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with mail-in ballots. I don't have a problem with more access. I don't. I think that you have better. I love the idea of that company that you had. I'd have no problem with that, about recognition software.
What's
that
the difference between that or ID? That's even more of an ID. That is an ID.
Well, no. If it was something where you just automatically had access because you had the phone, that's great. Yeah, but if people don't have IDs, Chris, and you're asking them to go get it, there is an argument to be made that they won't do it.
Didn't you go to Yale and Fordham? You went to schools.
I have IDs from both those places.
You do need them because it's what we do. Let me kind of, this goes into another conversation I'm having right now that has to do with IDs. Okay. So China's social credit system, how much are you following that? Are you following pretty closely?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's kind of process how many of you guys are familiar with the China social credit system? If you don't, let's kind of go through it together. So an estimated 80% of the provinces, regions, and cities have some sort of this social credit system. More than 33 million businesses in China have to follow this system. Now, you may say, what does this look like? There's such things in America that we have a FICO score, Experian, TransUnion, Equifax. These guys take it to a whole different level. Let me unpack that for you. For individuals, it's got data collection, scoring, ratings, rewards, and punishments. And for business, they have their own things as well. Here's for individuals, if you have a bad score, what you don't qualify for. You ready? Bad driving and traffic offenses. Okay. Jaywalking. Smoking on trains. Okay. Not cleaning up after your dog. I'd be in trouble. Not having your dog on a leash. I wouldn't get any kind of. Okay.
Straight to jail.
Not paying debts. Not paying taxes. Playing too many video games. A lot of people would be in trouble there. This next one, guys, earmuffs, watching pornography, okay, making frivolous purchases, consuming too much alcohol or junk food, criticizing the government, criticizing the social credit system, visiting unauthorized websites, being friends with or messaging others with low scores or those who commit the above offenses. Your score goes lower, okay? So now let me give you a couple testimonies on how this happened. So one of them is, according to the National Public Credit Information Center, Chinese courts have banned would-be travelers, these are people that wanted to travel, from buying flights 17.5 million times by 2018. We're not even talking today. That's 6 years ago, okay? And citizens placed on blacklists for social credit offenses were prevented from buying train tickets 5.5 million times. Okay? There's a story of a lawyer, Li Jiolin, a lawyer who was deemed untrustworthy after not fulfilling a court order in 2015, was placed on the list and was unable to purchase a plane ticket home while on a work trip. Human Rights Watch reported he couldn't also apply for a credit card. So this is the social credit system. Now I said, come on, they would never do this in America. Let me kind of give you an idea where they're testing this and how it's looking. Australia, for sure. Germany, India. Other areas, they're testing this out. Canada, we know what they did with the truckers. In U.S., Fed, this was a report. Fed monitor bank records for guns and Bible purchases. Words like MAGA and Trump. Customers are calling for a boycott of Bank of America after a report that the bank handed over the account information of hundreds of innocent people in connection with the January 6th riots at the request of the FBI. The country's second largest bank allegedly snooped through information of anyone making certain purchases in and around Washington before and after the riots and handed over information of 211 people. This was a report from the guys' show you were just on, Tucker Carlson. And some are saying, well, listen, I'm worried about this potentially coming down here. Now, the great news is that's never going to come here because, Chris doesn't like IDs. So we don't have to worry about something like that here because it's just not going to happen here. Candace, concerned about this. And by the way,
Jordan Peterson was at Congress yesterday, I believe. Rob, if you have that clip, if you can just play it real quick, and then, Candace, I'll come to you for reaction.
I don't think people understand the degree to which they are profiled online and to which their virtual representation is now an iconic representation of them, nor do they understand that they have no rights whatsoever to that representation. So, for example, let's say we turn our information about our purchasing habits over to the bank when we open a bank account. 30 years ago, that wasn't such a big problem. With AI systems, it's a problem that's so big you can't imagine it. I mean, I'm certain that my staff could find the data online to absolutely predict your voting patterns with 95% accuracy. You have no idea what sort of digital footprint that you're leaving behind you, and there are almost no protections for that. And so now, and you also asked about the First Amendment.
Yes.
Well, we have very weak free speech protections in Canada, and I can tell you that is not going well. And so the combination in my country, the combination of that.
Candace, your thoughts on the social credit system and potentially coming down here?
It's already here. It's very slowly. They tried to radically introduce it during the times of COVID. If you want to go back to one of their lies, the dollar bills have you can get dollar from dollar bills. Everything has to now be electronic. Don't use cash. One way that you can fight this system that is definitely coming is to use cash as much as possible. I keep cash on me now. Oh, am I going to get robbed? This wasn't smart. This is secure, right?
Yes.
We're good. And at the time of COVID, I was also pregnant, and when we went to the doctor, suddenly they didn't want you to fill out forms, so they got a bunch of people to agree to migrate all of their stuff online, their health information online. And I refused. I was like, print out paper. I like little things like this make a difference. Read the small print. Speaking of doctors, I went to the dermatologist the other day. Read the small print, the fine print, on what you are agreeing to. Everyone just fills that out really quickly. Unbelievable. I literally sat there, and she's like, I've never seen anybody read it. Right? I read it, and I was like, I absolutely agree to none of this, so I can't sign this. Are you still going to be able to check my face? Because I don't want to go into some system. We can use this information we can share this information with the government to put into their systems. For check a pimple? Like just one pimple? Like I don't want to do that. So you have to be, especially where they're already doing this, and he is absolutely correct, Dr. Jordan Peterson, in saying that the threat of them just constantly being able to take this data for you, to follow your digital footprint online. This is why it's really important to have like a VPN server. I mean, I put myself in all different countries all the time because I'm very aware that they're doing this. And you will see, ironically, that the same people that are telling you that they do not want people to have IDs are going to be the same people that are advocating for this system. They're the exact same people.
Who would say such a thing, though, to not have IDs?
No, this is great. We should be able to do this and monitor. They want to know where you are every second of every day.
They already do, though.
And predict your
patterns. The idea that this hasn't happened already, a VPN doesn't insulate you. I don't know how much IT you do. VPN is not going to keep you away from this. We've talked about this. You've all had this conversation where you're talking to somebody on some digital media, and all of a sudden you start getting ads that are relevant to the conversation you were having. Why? Because they're monitoring what you're saying, which is why I thought it was such a sham that you had the heads of the platforms come down and say, yeah, we don't really know what to do in terms of content moderation and stuff. You say we go for the majority with our rules, not the minority. That's not always true. We pass a lot of laws to protect minorities. We passed a law to give all of the platform providers complete insulation from any litigation about what's on their sites.
No. I said that in a functioning government, we should be passing laws that protect the majority. I'm aware that
sometimes you got to protect the little guys, no question. But we spend a lot of time protecting the big guy. They can't be sued for anything that's on their site, okay, content-wise. Do I like that rule? No, I understand it. They're not exactly publishers, but I think they're closer to publishers than we're giving them credit for. But they are using all of our information for their own needs and benefits. Candace is right to read her thing. And every time they say, we've updated our terms and conditions, you got to click this to keep on existing. You click that shit. You click it because you want to keep going. And they are selling it, they're using it, the cookie preferences, all these things, it's already happening. The China thing is scary, right? Could it happen here? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Why? Because the more we get into silos and we punish conversation like this, and we punish positions, and we punish thoughts, the more you're asking for it. And the more that you will allow fringe minorities to wind up overtaking the overall dynamics. And you see it in your government already. You see your elected representatives reflect the interests of motivated minorities more than they do the majority. So much so that now the largest voting bloc in this country is people who say they don't want to be Democrat or Republican. It's the first time in our history. So is there hope for Candace to get up in the morning and dance around? Yes, because more of you than ever before don't want to be part of the game anymore. But that doesn't mean the game's over. And in terms of this, it's happening every day in all kinds of ways. And they definitely know who you're going to vote for. You didn't need Jordan Peterson to tell us that. They know, they bank on it, literally. They literally take it to the bank. The sophistication that you get when you sit down with get out the vote analysts and pros and the technical data of how you shape messaging online, they pinpoint millions of people that will respond to certain messaging certain ways. So the question is, what do we do about it? Because it's already happening.
This is
Tom, your thoughts on here?
Yeah, this is why Bitcoin has been very popular. Not because, oh, it's a rebel currency, but also because it's aligned with the blockchain. And the blockchain not only gives you certainty of certain transactions, it also gives you confidentiality. Why do you think governments don't like blockchain? Because it gives citizens unique confidentiality in certain regards. However, that same blockchain could ensure complete integrity of elections, which is also why both sides of the uniparty don't want it, because they're both in a war to kind of game it from two sides of the street. And I think what's happening in China is the dark side. Anything that's good could be used for bad. And from the very, very beginning, if you knew the origins of Facebook, you know, he referred to people who were so dumb to be allowing the information to be there. The founders of Facebook referred to, oh, they are so dumb just to put everything here. Because if you're getting something for free, you're not the customer, you're the product. And you're being sold to the advertiser, when you think of it that way. And what's happening in China is the dark side of all this coming to light, where the pendulum will go back and forth. You'll have, you know, conservative side of the uniparty in power, and they'll want to use the information on the entire populace this way. Then everybody will get upset, and the liberal will get elected, and then the liberals want to use it this way on the people. And it's horrifying what's happening. And so I want as small of a digital footprint as I can have in terms of my personal information, but it's getting harder and harder to do it.
Why isn't the rule that everybody in the country gets given an identification? Why isn't it, instead of putting it on the individual to go and get the ID, why don't you reverse it and have it where when the baby's born, that kid is given an ID, and obviously you update the photo. You get a social security number, right? But I'm saying if what we want is this type of transparency mechanism, why not reverse the onus, and instead of it being on the individual to go and get an ID or whatever it is, why isn't it on the government and have it be automatic? Why isn't it that way?
Maybe I don't understand what you're asking, because I think we're doing an element of it with Social Security when we've had 4 kids, California, Texas.
But there's no picture on that.
Okay, so you're saying right off the bat to do what? To get...
Why not?
But by the way, I actually like it, because see if I'm kind of reading into it. If I'm going a little bit too much with ayahuasca community, bring me back, okay? Is your concern that you want to figure out a way for the left to get newborn babies to vote? Because that's brilliant, bro. If that's like what you're going,
to reduce
salute,
the voting age.
Dog. I mean, that's like
reduce the voting age.
Where he's going. Yeah.
Reduce the voting age to 8 months.
Let's transition to the next topic. That was plenty here. I watched a video just this morning, by the way. So I brought this video into Rob this morning. I watched this African-American lady talking about abortion, and it just popped up on my phone. I'm like, what a way she explained an ex-boyfriend of hers she had that was a rich guy, and she explained abortion in a way that's fascinating. Rob, if you can play this clip, I want to get everyone's reaction on this, because is there a part of the government forcing people to need the government so they do what they need them to do to control that voting block? I don't know, but hear her argument here. Go ahead.
They don't got abortion clinics at the border. They're telling us as American women, specifically black American women, we need to abort our children. But if you coming across the border with your baby, oh, come to the land of milk and honey. The great land of opportunity. We'll take care of you. Joe Biden even said, I'll give illegal immigrants coming across the border $400,000 apiece. Can you imagine if they were to go to that black single mother living in the hood, not even $400,000, offer $4,000, because I know some black women that can make something jump with $4,000. Offer her $40,000. You know why they'll never give us that? Because they know that we'll never need them again. Welfare reminds me of an old man I used to date. I was in a relationship with him for 11 years. He would never marry me, right? But whenever my bills were due, I would tell him he would give me just enough. Wow. He had a whole lot of money. He would give me just enough. Rent due, $1,200. He'd give me $1,200, not 1 cent over, because he knew that every month the rent was due, that I would have to come back to him. He wouldn't give me $100,000 and say, here, baby, bump that, go buy you a house and start you a business, because then he felt like I wouldn't need him. The government system is the same way when it comes to black Americans. They'll never give us enough to get over and get up. It's only enough to make sure we continue to come back every 30 days so that we can remain slaves to their system.
Wow. Wow.
Thoughts?
It's a fact. I mean, trillions of dollars spent on the welfare system. Black Americans are poorer today than when it was established. Here's another fact. In the 1950s, under Jim Crow laws, black Americans were outpacing white Americans in terms of economic growth. It's during Jim Crow, before they even said Civil Rights Act and now you get your equal rights. Lyndon Baines Johnson, as I said, factually, the reason why they don't want people to know their history or learn history or be able to read books is because when you have those capabilities, you recognize how absolutely sinister and how avowedly racist Lyndon Baines Johnson was. Don't believe me? Check his record in the Senate, right? Every time there was a measure to help black Americans, he voted against it virulently. And so you have that, they create this system, and the system literally says we will give you more money if you don't marry the father of your children, to break down the black family. You fast forward today, you look at the circumstance in black America, how black Americans are suffering and how they can't attribute it back to the very same people. They actually go say, we need more governance in order to fix this, right? Because you have these things like BLM that pop up that are sponsored by the government that convince black Americans to riot and to loot down their own neighborhoods, to set them backwards even further. And they are completely deluded in believing that it's the white man that is causing these issues when it has always been the government that has caused these issues. And abortion is an infuriating topic, again, not knowing history, seeing women parrot things like my body, my choice, and not knowing where that literal birth control propaganda and abortion propaganda came from. Well, you should read Margaret Sanger's writings. She wrote a piece called Birth Control Propaganda. She was another avowed racist and avowed eugenicist, not just towards black Americans, because at that time, Italians were coming in, Germans were coming in. I think I saw on your Wikipedia, your grandpa came in 1890. They hated them too. They were racist toward them too. And her thing was, when she wrote this to Dr. Clarence Gamble of the Procter & Gamble family, a rich kid who inherited $1 million just for being born in the right family, who was also concerned about immigrants and black people procreating. She wrote in a letter, you can go look it up. We don't want word to get out that we want to sterilize the black race. So how do we package to them? She said we can make an appeal to their ministers. We can go to their churches and tell them to sell this sort of a thing. And so it's infuriating. I look forward to the day when we can stand outside of a Planned Parenthood clinic and it will be a Holocaust museum for the black people that have been murdered systematically, intentionally, by racists.
Rob, can you pull up that chart of 1964, what Lyndon Johnson did? If you can zoom in on this a little bit. So this is, it's not showing the top. This is showing the growth of unwed childbearing in the U.S. from 1929 to 2013. And this is from the U.S. Government Census Bureau. If you look at what it was back in the early, from 1930 to 1960, we're at around 4%, okay, is where we were at. Lyndon Johnson comes in, war on poverty begins, we go all the way up to 41% today in America at a time where the world average is around 7%, and China and India are at 4% and 3%, and we're sitting at 41%. It's a travesty what some of these bad policies did to this incredible community. So Chris, why do you think you know, Stephen A. Smith, you and I and Stephen A. are friends. And, you know, we'll be in some group text, and you guys, we'll have our conversations together. But Stephen A. gets up there and he challenges what's going on, and I, remind him of one time when he said, I think what the Democrats need to do is they need to not vote Democrat and vote Republican for one time and see what happens, right? It's easy to say that, but then it's actually go through it, right? And God knows today's a very hard time for a guy like that.
It's also not easy to say it, not even for a black man.
Very, very hard to say it. And he got a lot of heat for it. And he still continues to get heat. When he had his first guest, I think he had on his podcast, was Hannity. You were the second one that he had on the podcast, right? And he's in sports culture, so he has influence in a very different way, right? Why do you think, the data we're looking at, why do you think this lady who's telling the story that she's saying, why do you think if she is giving her perspective and then Candace is talking about the history, why do you think this keeps happening over and over again, specifically with the black vote?
Because it works. It works for the system. It works for the people in power. It works for them to continue to keep voting blocks dependent on them. Look, one of the good things is, 10 years ago, maybe, I don't know, 8, we would have never seen that video. The access of people to be able to tell their stories now and put out information and perspective. I mean, is there risk with it? Yeah, you can get sold things, people can lie and all that, but seem really impressive. But there's an upside also. Look, why did China come up with its social credit system? Because power loves to shape behavior. Power loves to shape behavior. Power loves to create conformity. And that's why it's establishment versus disruption right now in America, because we're dealing with it here as well. I know very few things for sure. I know that the system has failed us of the two-party system. I know it's the root of these problems. I know it is. I also know that we are doing ourselves a massive disservice by getting away from conversation. One of the reasons that this matters to me and that I am happy to be here with Candace and with Patrick and with the home team fellas and with you guys, we are killing ourselves by denying ourselves conversation. Stephen A. Smith getting beat up as a black man for saying things that aren't popular on the left, first of all, is just nuts. Right? I mean, the guy can't say what he wants to say about people like him without getting beat up by a bunch of white people who all of a sudden are going to say that they're covering the mantle. And now I say this, I sit here next to her, and now all of a sudden people are going to make a big list of assumptions about everything that I'm about. Shame on you. I think that we're killing ourselves with this. Part of the answer has to be what you've been trying to do so much, Pat. And it's why I wanted to get to know you. And it's why the more I get to know you, the more I love you, is you got to let people say how they feel. And when it's not making sense to you, you check it. There's nothing wrong with that. We do that in our real lives all the time. But when it comes to politics, all of a sudden, you don't just disagree with me. It's not that you're in favor of voter ID. I'm not in favor of voter ID. And therefore, I am evil and hate Jesus and should go directly to the 5th circle of hell. Who does this benefit? See, you want to talk conspiracy, whatever. Here's mine, okay? One, I believe that there's a conspiracy afoot that keeps tuna from biting my bait because other people catch. I don't catch. I think it's dirty. Second, who is benefiting from this? Who is benefiting from, if Candace and I don't disagree, she's got to be bad. This is a bad person right here. Tucker's favorite word. He doesn't mean it this way, I think. By the way, I'll get beat up for saying that. But he uses the word evil a lot. Whenever he says that he doesn't agree with a position, he'll be like, oh, I don't know why Biden is saying this. He is evil for saying this. That's just his default mechanism. But Tucker yet sat down with me. I don't know if you heard. We sat down. Tucker and I have the same lawyer. So when Tucker lost his job, my lawyer said to me, who's a beautiful guy, I won't say his name because then people will hate him for no reason, that he's like, hey, would you call Tucker Carlson and talk to him about how he's processing all this stuff that's going on with him because you went through it? And I was like, no, man, I really don't want to call Tucker Carlson. He chewed on my behind like it was a dog toy for years. And I wound up calling him because why not? You don't want to try to, if you can't help somebody, you don't do it. And I became ashamed of myself that was my reflex because of what I think about the guy's politics, and a little bit because he was kicking my butt gratuitously on a regular basis. But that shouldn't be demonized. Why is my phone literally hot right now from all the comments as word spreads that I'm having a conversation with Tucker Carlson? Why are all these people killing me for sitting down with the guy? Why? Who is that benefiting? Why is it that if Candace comes on my show, there'll be hell to pay? Then the crazier question is, why do I keep doing it? Why? I don't get paid to be controversial. I don't have a following, okay? I don't have it's much easier to pick a side. You want to be a star in the media, pick a side. Pick a side. And if I were you, I would pick the right, because you guys are much more loyal to your side than the left is. Be a star, be telegenic, make good arguments, do a little bit of homework, pick a side. Who's benefiting from that? I really think you got to start asking yourselves that question, because we demonize disagreement. One of the reasons that this has been so cool is that you realize that you may not agree, but it doesn't mean that you hate. And they're making us hate one another. Even in Biden's tone last night, okay? And again, they all took this low bar idea from me, by the way. I'm the one who said it this morning, that you set Biden up for success. Whether or not he has a stroke is the new measure of the American president. That's pathetic. That's pathetic. Tom's right in his analysis of what he didn't deliver last night. But
we're going to hear about that all weekend.
But why would he? But why would he deliver any of those things? His tone. Why is the left happy about Biden this morning? One, because he didn't have his stroke, right? Yeah. Two, he was aggressive. He's got fight. He was taking it to Trump. What is this, UFC? Is that what we want?
Tomorrow.
Is that what you want, is to see who's the angriest, who's the meanest? Who does that benefit? Start asking yourself the question of who benefits from keeping you divided. Because this is the answer. Not hitting myself in the mic, which I'm sure you enjoy. The conversation is the answer. They don't want you to have conversations. And you should ask yourself why.
Candace, final thoughts.
Final thoughts. I think, first and foremost, I also use the word evil but I do separate. I think there are people that, blindly support evil and their hearts are in the right place. Then I think there are people that are aware of the evil and they continue to support it because they feel, it figuratively butters their bread. They're getting paid for it in some regard. They're being lobbied for it in some regard. And then there are the people who are plotting at the top, the criminal enterprise that is running this country. And I would love to see a chart, by the way, when you show how poor Americans are getting. I'd like to see how rich the politicians are getting, right? Because they're just getting richer and richer.
It's a great business model.
You see their account that tracks their stock trades?
Yeah.
I have a buddy who's been trading on those trades as an aggregate. He's up 16%.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They do pretty good.
Chris, be careful saying that. You may get canceled. The establishment may come after you specifically.
How many times can you be canceled?
You just offended Nancy Pelosi. That's very offensive. Please watch your language. Go ahead, Vinny.
And Pat, if I may, because Chris, you
trying to protect this guy, they don't have to check his ID.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You were saying.
You said it, Chris. These conversations need to happen, and and that's why everybody loves PBD. But on you, Chris, I think people, they have to give you credit for literally coming into a lion's den and being the person you are and having that conversation so you practice what you preach, and I respect the shit out of you for doing that.
My man.
Seriously.
All right. So, by the way, I just got a report right now. This was the #1 biggest stream that took place on YouTube right now, record-breaking. And on all streams going on, so phenomenal to everybody watching. Couple other things I want to announce to you guys. We love doing this live. Chris and I, we've been going back and forth. And we have finally come to an agreement that we'll be working together. We'll be representing Chris. Chris will be coming on more podcasts. So we're going to be fighting, arguing a lot more often. And there's a partnership now moving forward. Of course, everything he's doing with cable is with News Nation, even to the point where I have a News Nation t-shirt that was brought to me here from our friend Chris, but I have it over here. But you're going to see a lot more of Chris here with us. We're talking to a lot of people. I like to talk to people I disagree with. Maybe it's a challenge that I have. I like debates. Everything to me is a debate. When we're having conversations, we're always fighting. And then it always ends with brotherly love, which I love that part of it. And our initial conversation was about the fact that I loved how his relationship was with his son, with his brother, that they were protective of each other. I got my oldest son sitting over there, and my other son is at the house. I value that a lot. And for some of you that are watching this, if you got questions that you want to ask Chris, that he pissed you off, you're like, I cannot believe you would ever say such a thing. If you DM him on Instagram, he won't get back to you. If you DM him on Twitter, not get back to you. Not on LinkedIn. However, you can connect with Chris Cuomo, and that's his account. You connect with Chris Cuomo. He'll get back to you. Audio, video, all of that stuff you want to do. And by the way, if you love Vinny, Tom, and Adam as well, their Connect is also going to be up there. And if you can put that up there as well so people know, Vinny right now is, a lot of people are asking, say, where's Vinny's new suit? We're about to go buy Vinny a new suit. For those of you guys that are supporting him, it's coming here soon. Much love to you. But more importantly, I am a very, very, very big fan of Candace Owens. Very. And I'm going to tell you from what perspective. I think, you know, you watch everybody. A guy is, yesterday he's interviewed me for his podcast, and we're having a conversation. So you keep talking to me, you're going to run for 40 years. You know, what is really what you're going to be doing for 40 years? I said, you know, some of the stuff is public, some of the stuff is private, some of the stuff is just, you know, it's me and the man upstairs that we're running to see what's going to be happening next 40 years. But what you need to know is the vision is big. When I watch Candace and I see where she's going and how much she loves being a mom, family, all of those things, she fights and she's evolving even herself, recreating herself constantly. I don't know what the future looks like and what they're going to be doing. But by the way, when you go to Vegas odds, what you're starting to see a lot of names popping up on Vegas odds. Candace Owens, presidential VP Vegas odds. What are those names all about? I'm not insinuating VP, by the way. All I'm saying is I am glad people like her exist who have the audacity to fight, because God knows what she may be called to do the next 3, 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And I'm excited about that. And I guarantee you the folks on the establishment side hate the fact that that possibility exists, and I love it, and I'm sure you do as well. So having said that, Candace, thank you for coming on. You're amazing. To everybody out there watching, appreciate you guys. Love you guys. Take care. Bye-bye, bye-bye.
It was so fun.
VIP?
Start right there.
Huh? Are you gonna put it?
Yeah, VIP.